Good evening, everyone. It's Friday, October 24th, 2025, and here's the latest happenings inside the federal machine. An act of terrorism occurred last night in the California Bay Area, where officers encountered a U-Haul driven by an anti-ICE protester who floored the truck in reverse toward officers, who then engaged with a barrage of gunfire until the U-Haul stopped, then drove away. And also, over 30 members of the Weyman Street Gang in the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia were raided and arrested by the FBI this morning. The feds also seized quantities of fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine. The Ronald Reagan Foundation announced that Canada ran a fraudulent $75 million ad campaign, which paints Trump's tariffs in a negative light. Not only did the Reagan Foundation condemn this act, they are seeking legal counsel to sue the hell out of the Ontario government, and Trump responded by terminating all Canadian trade negotiations. Also, the U.S. Department of Transportation withheld $40 million for California for not complying with English proficiency and legal immigration status among CDL drivers. Now, Secretary Sean Duffy is threatening to withhold another $160 million while Gavin Newsom gets his act together. And President Gustavo Petro came into power in Colombia, and cocaine production immediately soared. And as a result, the Treasury Department has imposed financial sanctions against the Colombian president. Also, a wealthy anonymous donor just gave the Department of War $130 million to put toward the paychecks of our military service members. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like and consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the daily updates, and I might just read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. And also, every article you'll see in the video will be linked in the description below. And this comes from Dan Bongino. The citizens of Philadelphia deserve safe and secure streets. The Kensington drug market has plagued the city for far too long. Those days are over. When President Trump told us to go get him, he wasn't kidding, and neither were we. And he's responding to Chris O'Donnell breaking massive multi-location drug raid in Kensington, led by the FBI, and also tagged in with Fox 29 Philly. So let's play this quick 5-second clip.
You right here.
They're laughing. Yeah, those bystanders, they know what's up. They know what the hell's going on there. All right. Anyway, I've got more on this. I got more. I think I have a longer video. Not of the raid itself. That's all we got for the raid itself. But I do have this from FBI Director Kash Patel. Another major drug trafficking crew taken down. 30-plus members charged for pushing fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine on one of Philly's most violent drug blocks. These criminals used violence to poison communities. Now they'll face justice. This FBI isn't backing down. Let me see if he linked the article. I believe he might have. That's not it. That's just the image. All right, let me try this one more time. And does he have it linked? Yeah, he does. He always links his articles. At least the articles that he puts as his images of his posts. So this comes out of Philadelphia, of course. Federal agents on Friday raided multiple properties in Philadelphia's embattled Kensington neighborhood as part of a massive FBI lead drug trafficking bust. The Weyman Street Drug Trafficking Organization is accused of peddling narcotics on one of the most prolific drug blocks, functioning as an open-air drug market. Investigators say the group enforced their territory for nearly a decade through acts of violence, including murder. What we know, federal agents and local law enforcement officers swarmed the area of Clearfield and F Streets on Friday morning as part of a massive drug trafficking investigation. The Kensington block is one place where investigators say the Weyman Street Drug Trafficking Organization is accused of dealing dangerous narcotics. U.S. Attorney David Metcalf revealed that for nearly a decade, Weymouth DTO's army of alleged drug dealers peddled fentanyl, heroin, crack cocaine, and more. The 3100 block of Weyman Street was described by investigators as one of the most prolific drug blocks in the city, functioning as an open-air drug market. The group's operation expanded from Weymouth Street to the areas of F and Clementine Streets, E and Wishart Streets, and the 3000 block of Potter Street. Investigators allege that Jose Antonio Morales Nieves, 45 years old, is the ringleader of the Weyman Street drug trafficking organization. Investigators say Morales Nieves, a Puerto Rican native, allegedly authorized members to sell drugs on his block in exchange for a quote-unquote rent. It's believed that Morales Nieves would protect group members against rivals through violent acts carried out by either himself or his associates. Raymond Roman Montanez, age 40, was also named by law enforcement as a high-ranking member of Weymouth DTO in charge of street-level operations. He allegedly oversaw organizing the drug shift schedule, including establishing roles and shifts for dealers, and was responsible for obtaining more drugs. Let's see. Nancy Rios Valentin, also an accused leader of Weymouth DTO, is also accused of holding a similar role. Attorney Metcalf revealed during a Friday afternoon press conference that 29 alleged members of the Weymouth DTO were taken into custody during the raids. The operation also netted arrests in San Juan, Puerto Rico, as well as in Wilmington, Delaware, and in Millville, New Jersey. So it was like a multi-state and damn near international operation happening. So what they're saying, the FBI Director Kash Patel applauded law enforcement's work to dismantle the massive drug trafficking ring. Quote, "We have permanently removed a drug trafficking organization out of the streets of Philadelphia," Director Patel said. Attorney Metcalf echoed the FBI Director's message, adding that the takedown will virtually eradicate a violent drug trafficking organization, root and stem. "We're just getting started here," Metcalf said. "I frequently get asked, what are you going to do about Kensington? And today shows what we're going to do." So I'm not familiar with Philadelphia. I've never been there before. I mean, I know the city of Philadelphia. I just haven't been there before. But I believe that I have seen a couple of videos on YouTube of the Kensington neighborhood, and it looks like an absolute wasteland with drug use. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think there were tents that were set up around the neighborhood. But I believe that's the neighborhood in Philadelphia where you just see scores of people standing around like zombies, just completely whacked out on fentanyl. So I'm going to see real quick if I can find a quick clip of that. Yep, and just as I thought, that is indeed the neighborhood that I was guessing it was. This is just a quick short on YouTube. This is in Kensington, the same place where the drug bust happened. Some look zombied out, some kind of, well, yeah, actually they all kind of do. It's a shame. It's a disgrace. It's absolutely, it's sad. It's absolute tragedy, especially that the Democrats allowed their cities to get this bad. Here's another one. This has 3.5 million views. All right, hold on. Gotta do, dude. Oh my God, I hate shorts. I fucking hate shorts, YouTube. Dude, oh my God. Oh my God. I am fucking this up all up and down. All right, I don't want to play the music, damn it. I don't want to play the fucking music. Okay, well, let's try this one. Let's see about this one. Whacked out. Like, where the hell's the volume, dude? Oh, it's way up here. Okay. I'm not used to watching shorts on YouTube on PC. So quite possibly all the drug dealers that are supplying all of these junkies have been taken down. I mean, they arrested 2930 drug trafficking and gang members that were dealing out fentanyl in this exact neighborhood in Philadelphia, in the Kensington neighborhood. I mean, not good news for the drug users, not for those who are looking to chase the dragon and stay away from detox, but I mean, this could very well save their lives, for sure. I have no doubt in my mind that this drug bust will save lives. Possibly even including some that are on screen right now. If any of these people are even still alive. There's a good chance a lot of these people are not even alive anymore. It's just an absolutely ruthless drug, man. It is unbelievable how insane that fentanyl makes people. Just completely zombied out. It is unreal. All right. So let me move on to the next thing. I actually have a statement from Director Patel as soon as I can get to it. Not that one. Okay, here it is. It's from Gunther Eagleman. He's the one that posted this. Breaking: the FBI just helped the Philadelphia Police Department in busting the Weyman Street Gang and apprehended scores of narcotics and illegal firearms. This is how you keep the American people safe. At FBI Director Kash, we are removing guns and gang members and robbers and firearms, so on and so forth. I'll just let him say it himself.
Is what happens when you let good cops be cops. when you let interagency,
That's his motto.
state and
Let
local
good cops
police
be
work
cops.
together to rid our cities of the harmful plague of drug trafficking organizations and gang violence. And there's an important distinction to be made. Yesterday I was in the White House with the President for the Homeland Security Task Force. And while that lift is being done at the international level to wipe out drug trafficking organizations and gang violence, our urban cities from Los Angeles to Philadelphia, New York, and everywhere in between are being plagued by localized street gangs and gang violence and drug trafficking organizations. Once the drugs and guns come in,
thanks to Democrats,
we need an outfit to deliver them to our communities. And we need to
they
attack
control those cities
outfits
on the local level.
And the reason I wanted to come to Philadelphia today is because this takedown, brought to you by the men and women standing behind me and their wonderful teams, the Philadelphia Police Department, the FBI, and the United States Attorney's Office, are bringing to bear what law enforcement can do when you unleash them and let them go after the criminals.
Hey, wait a minute, quick comment. Where the hell's the DEA? Doesn't DEA have the word enforcement in its acronym? The Drug Enforcement Agency or Administration. I always forget which one it is. I think it's agency, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know why the DEA isn't coordinating this, because I thought that's exactly what they do. They do drug takedowns. However, this is a street gang, so maybe they overlap in that aspect, and perhaps he might actually give a shout out to the DEA. But if he doesn't, I'm just saying, for the record, I'm surprised that they're not here.
That are destroying our communities, that are harming our civilization, and that are hurting our children. This Weyman Street Gang is not just one instance of removing a couple of people. It is an example of how you remove an entire organization that is corrupting not just the city of Philadelphia, but the state of Pennsylvania as well. And I felt it extremely important to come in here and say, not only are we removing guns and gang members and robbers and firearms, we are removing an entire coordinated section of gang violence permanently off the streets. And that's how you deliver a victory for the people of Philadelphia, the people of Pennsylvania, and the people of America. I'm so
not
proud
only
and
there, but
humbled
two
to
other
be
states
joined here today by these wonderful representatives from the police force, from the FBI, and a shout out to the Department of Justice and our United States Attorney Metcalf here. You need courageous prosecutors to bring these cases. You need people that aren't going to say no, that are going to bend the knee, that are going to say, it's too hard to bring this case. It's too difficult to collect the evidence. When you hear the details of this case, everyone in America should be looking at this takedown. This takedown is how you safeguard American cities from coast to coast. This takedown is an interagency process, years in the making. Extensive legal service and process was executed here, correctly done to make sure that the integrity of the investigation is upheld and the criminals are put into the legal system and brought before a judge and a jury, and they will have their rightful day in court. But the overarching importance of this case and this takedown is this is exactly how you safeguard American lives. You go after the organizations that are inflicting pain across America in each and every city. And this is my
Good
tenure
grief,
as FBI
Fox, your
director.
freaking
This
feed,
is one
man.
of the largest and most impressive gang
That ain't coming from me.
takedowns that I have ever seen. So I felt it important to come here and just shake the hands of the brave men and women that did this work. I did not have much of a role in this operation. The FBI brought in an incredible amount of assets to include HRT and SWAT teams.
Yeah, zoom in on them
tactical teams
guns.
To hit houses at the same time. The level
Those
of
guns
coordination
belong
that
to
goes
me.
into just
Yep, yeah.
the takedown is a small reflection of the level of coordination and planning that goes into making a case like this happen. We have permanently removed a drug
Were they having a birthday party with them balloons?
out of the streets of Philadelphia, and they're going to stop pouring guns and chemicals and drugs into our communities, and our children are sick
Guns and
today.
balloons.
So I just want to
It's a
thank
hilarious
the men and women of law
combination.
enforcement, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and of course, the proud men and women of the FBI who are leading the charge across this country. If anyone out there is watching in your streets, in your communities, this is how you stop gang violence. Thank you.
Well, we got the mask. At least we know they got a party city in that area. Okay, so that happened, and I believe that's all I have for the drug bust, and I'm going to move on to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Overnight, just happened overnight, this was posted 12 hours ago, at the direction of President Trump, the Department of War carried out a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by Tren de Aragua, TDA, a designated terrorist organization, a DTO, trafficking narcotics in the Caribbean Sea. The vessel was known by our intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, was transiting along a known narco-trafficking route, and carrying narcotics. 6 male narco-terrorists were aboard the vessel during the strike, which was conducted in international waters and was the first strike at night. All 6 terrorists were killed and no U.S. forces were harmed in this strike. If you are a narco-terrorist smuggling drugs in our hemisphere, we will treat you like we treat Al-Qaeda. Day or night, we will map your networks, track your people, hunt you down, and kill you. And by the way, I was trying to figure out a couple of days ago when I showed the last one that they released. It was like 2 days, maybe 3 days ago. I was trying to figure out which island that these outboard vessels or the outboard motor vessels were traveling to, because there's no way they're going to be going from Venezuela straight to the U.S. coastline delivering narcotics. They had to go somewhere, so I threw out possibly Jamaica, but I totally forgot that Trinidad and Tobago, I think it's near Venezuela. I mean, I probably should bring up a map, but I believe that it is, isn't it? I think it's pretty close to Venezuela, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I guess I could just take a quick look. Matter of fact, I got to take that off screen because I know, even though that I've got it on a private browser, it'll dox me. So I have to at least pull out of the area. All right, so here we go. Trinidad, isn't it? Okay, Kurt. No, it's not. Well, I thought I heard somebody say that Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, it's way over here. Wow, that's way off that. I thought it was like way up here, like near the Lesser Antilles. Well, it kind of is, but not really. So they're trying to, like, I heard from some entity, I'm assuming it was a government entity or somebody in government who said that Trinidad and Tobago was one of those drug routes that they transported drugs to, but Venezuela is way over here. So, okay, well, actually, no, never mind. Yeah, Venezuela border's way over here. Okay, so yeah, maybe that is where they're concentrating a lot of their operations at. I figured that that Southcom, the operations, were going to be like over in this area, like near Curacao or Caracas, which I think is the capital of Venezuela. I figured they'd be over in this area, but so they must be over in this area. So maybe they're transporting drugs from the mainland to Trinidad, or maybe from here to Grenada, and maybe from there it just gets distributed across the Lesser Antilles in some drug network or something. But from what I understand, the Southcom, which is the military entity they've been engaging in these strikes, they haven't really been very transparent as to the drug trafficking routes, which directions they're going, how much of a distance can these vessels travel. They're not really divulging any information about the details of these operations, other than they're sharing video footage of them blowing them out of the water. And anyway, here, we'll just check out the latest one here. Probably doesn't have sound. I don't think any of them have to this point. So this marks number 7 or 8. Oh, man. You saw the missile come right in. Just splash. Blew it right out of the water. Sank it probably immediately. So obviously they said it was at night, so we're not going to see any color imagery. I mean, you can kind of see the waves a little bit of movement in the water. That's the first one that I saw where you could actually see the missile like appear on screen and make contact. That was freaking wild, man. Yeah, just like that. Wha-bam! 6 people. They died trying to traffic drugs. At least that's what the military's telling us, that they're trafficking drugs. As I mentioned the other day when I watched the last one that they released, doesn't look like that they're out there fishing, because if you look at the vessel that they're in, you can't even see people in the vessel. It's just, it's a flat vessel. There's nothing there. There's no fishing rods. There's no coolers, no equipment, no nothing. It's just, it almost looks like a drone vessel of some sort, really. So, all right. So anyway, that happened. And we'll just move on to Homeland Security. Alameda, California, at approximately 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time on Thursday, Coast Guard security personnel standing watch on Coast Guard Island observed a vehicle driving erratically and attempting to weaponize the vehicle to ram into Coast Guard Base Alameda. U.S. Coast Guard personnel issued multiple verbal commands to stop the vehicle. The driver failed to comply and proceeded to put the vehicle in reverse, suddenly accelerating backwards at a high rate of speed directly toward them. When the vehicle's actions posed a direct threat to the safety of Coast Guard and security personnel, law enforcement officers discharged several rounds of defensive live fire. When you hear the video, it sounds like at least probably 2 dozen, maybe 3 dozen rounds in total. No Coast Guard personnel were injured during the incident. 2 civilians were injured and are expected to survive. The truck driver was wounded in the stomach and is being held for mental health evaluation. A bystander was struck by a fragment. Wait a minute. For mental health evaluation. Is that what we're calling Democrats these days? That just, mentally ill? Anytime a Democrat gets arrested, are we going to start throwing them in mental health facilities? I don't think you're going to see a lot of pushback on that if that's what they're going to start doing. Anyway, a bystander was struck by a fragment, treated at a local hospital, and released. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is the lead agency for this investigation, and we are coordinating with our law enforcement partners. I did read somewhere that Coast Guard Island in the Bay Area is the staging area where ICE enforcement, the hub of their operation in the local area, is set up. And apparently that's who this terrorist was targeting, from what I read, from what I heard. And I'm not sure why they didn't state that ICE was in the vicinity. But anyway, here, let's see what this is all about. I don't know if okay, we got sound. I'm going to crank it up. Okay, so first thing, it was definitely 2 to 3 dozen rounds. And if you saw at the front windshield, it looked like an officer in front of the vehicle somewhere over here must have fired a round at him, unless it just pierced from the back through the windshield. Maybe that's actually what ended up happening. It exited through the windshield. So second of all, you can hear the driver, which sounded like a woman, either the driver or the passenger, screaming because they were hit. Like, what did you think was going to happen? You're back in this big ass deadly, essentially a missile that you're backing up at full reverse speed at officers, displaying berries and cherries, and it's as bright as they can get. These LED red and blue lights. What did you think was going to happen? So anyway, I'm gonna go back and listen to this again when they open. Once they open fire, and look at this dude just standing here, just observing. I don't think he's firing anything. Maybe I'm wrong. He might have been. I wasn't really focused too much on this guy, but you can distinctly hear them screaming in pain as they're driving off. I'm assuming that was them. Although it's hard to be sure because, I mean, how far is this camera set up from where it was? It looks like it's zoomed in, but it probably isn't. I'm assuming that was the person who was shot that was screaming as they were driving away. And then there's just some other like random ass, what was that, like a Honda Civic or something that was just in the area that just took off real quick. Like, dude, you're on your way home from work and this shit happens, dude. That'd be fucked up. So anyway, it's near a railroad. They got railroad crossing sign there. But apparently this is the bridge that goes to the Coast Guard Island. I mean, I suppose I could bring up the map again and see if I can find that. But I believe they said it was in the bay. Let's see if I can find it. Is it this one? Treasure Island. Hold on, I think that might be it. Okay, there it is. Okay, I was wrong. So apparently it was right here on the bridge that it happened right here. I'm assuming that red vehicle that turned, they probably turned down this way heading, well, I guess they could have been heading south too. Yeah, see, look, there's the railroad right there. So yeah, it happened right here at this intersection. And matter of fact, while I'm here, I might as well just pull up Street View. Let's have a look at it from here. See what it looks like in broad daylight. Oh, nope. I think I'm off a little bit. Damn it. All right, let's try this again. Oh, no, it looks like I'm there. All right, whatever. Okay, all right. Yeah, it definitely looks like it was right here where that occurred. Although I'm not sure exactly where that car drove off, but all right, anyway, I don't want to get too hung up on that, but that's where it happened. And I got another one here. Direct threat. Officers open fire on a U-Haul truck after the driver ignores multiple verbal commands to stop as it reverses into the entrance of the U.S. Coast Guard base in California. U.S. Coast Guard says the truck was driving erratically and attempting to back into the base and confirms no personnel were injured. The incident follows a protest at the base entrance where demonstrators tried to block Border Patrol agents from entering. Again, arrest them if they're trying to block agents from doing anything. They are obstructing. That carries up to an 8-year prison sentence. I don't know why they're not arresting these people. Even if there's 100 of them standing in the way, arrest all 100 of them, charge them, and get them convicted and sent to prison. I think everybody, I mean, not literally everybody, but most Americans are insisting that they do this at this point, and they're still not acting on that. I don't understand why they're not doing that, but it's probably going to be the same video, but I'll play it regardless. It might be a different angle, maybe. Nah, well, no, it's the same angle. Okay, yeah, I didn't really get anything additional out of that. Not really hearing any sound. I mean, OBS says that it's got sound, but... All right, so that happened. Anyway, moving on to the next topic from Homeland Security. Law and order will triumph in Chicago. Yesterday, Border Patrol agents conducted enforcement operations near 27th and Whipple Avenue. A large crowd of 75 to 100 rioters surrounded law enforcement who set up a perimeter after agents were boxed in by a large box truck. Rioters then shot at agents with commercial artillery shell fireworks. A Border Patrol transport van carrying illegal aliens attempting to get to the safety of the perimeter was then attacked. Border Patrol agents were able to secure the van and get it into the perimeter. The mob of rioters grew more hostile and violent, advancing toward agents and began throwing rocks and other objects at agents, including one that struck Chief Greg Bovino in the head. By the way, if you assault a federal agent, 20 years in federal prison. Arrest these assholes. My God. Border Patrol agents repeated multiple warnings to back up and that chemical agents would be deployed if warnings were ignored. You shouldn't even be issuing warnings. They should be just bum rushing them and immediately arresting all. Tackle them and arrest them, dude. What the hell? Riot control measures were deployed, including by Chief Bovino, and arrests were made. Agents properly used their training. The use of chemical munitions was conducted in full accordance with CBP policy and was necessary to ensure the safety of both law enforcement and the public. Look, you already got my opinion. I could say it 10,000 more times. It ain't going to change. I don't know why, like, every single one of these people should be sitting in prison or jail right now. 100%. Every last one of them. If they're standing in the public roadway, they're obstructing the officers. Because I'm sure at some point, because I believe the build, like, I'm looking at this image. Looks like the building must be over here in the far left area, but if the ICE vehicle wants to travel down this road, that every single person in the roadway would therefore be obstructing. 8 years. That's the maximum that they could face. So, I don't know why. Look at this. That is obstruction. That's literally obstructing. 8 years, ladies and gentlemen. 8 years in federal prison. That's the max they can get for simple obstructing, which includes standing in front of ICE vehicles, hindering them to conduct their duties as law enforcement agents is obstruction. All right, let's take a look at this. Take a look at this bullshit. I mean, dude, the feds are pissing me off too because they're not doing enough. They're not doing nearly enough. They keep saying they're gonna crack down on these people and they ain't doing shit. Oh yeah, we arrested one. We arrested two, maybe. No, I want to see 50, 100, 200 people getting arrested all at once. And this footage is very interesting. It's like it's from a drone, but there's no sound from the drone. It's like they put audio in addition to the video, like an overlay or whatever. Is that the van they're talking about, I think? Possibly. Maybe not. They said a van or a box truck or something. Maybe that wasn't it. I mean, if anything, like, these look like the agents, and it looks like they're retreating, if anything. Yeah, they are. They're all hopping in their vehicles and leaving. You know, that's only going to embolden the rioters if the agents appear to be retreating as the mob just, like, essentially chases them out of the area. It's not going to help anything. It's only going to embolden them to do more. Okay, no, all right, so there are officers on the ground. The guy's in black. Got the skyline. Man, that's a little further from the inner city than I thought it would be. Ooh, so dramatic. So dramatic, so pretty. All right, so that happened. I'm assuming today, or October, so that was yesterday, October 23rd. This was posted 11 hours ago. And I'll move on to the next one. From U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE officers and agents face relentless attacks daily. This week, an illegal alien attempted to ram their vehicle into ICE officers, forcing them to respond with deadly force. The violence and rhetoric targeting ICE must stop. Look, I don't want them to... I would prefer them not to use deadly force, but when shit like that's happening, you got to use deadly force. I mean, there's a certain point where pepper balls and tear gas ain't going to be enough.
Like
so let's take a look at this.
Over the country, we're seeing more and more in the upticks in violence against ICE and our federal partners that are taking action in these criminal alien arrests. From originally what we know, it seems as a vehicle was used again in a ramming incident. Officers had to return fire. It's non-life-threatening injuries, as we're being told right now.
That's good.
But this is just what happens when you see that increase. You know, we keep saying over 1,000% increase in assaults on officers. It has to be more by now because it's really becoming.
And they're taking them to mental health facilities.
So
Fuck that. Put them in prison. Federal pound me in the ass prison. That's where they all belong.
Enforcement officers making these arrests of these criminal aliens. And unfortunately, I don't see this stopping anytime soon. And, you know, ICE agents do have to protect themselves when they're out there.
No, it's really not going to stop anytime soon. Not when you have elected officials calling on this violence and there's really nothing being done about it. Democrats do what they do. They double down and double down again. And then once they're done with that, then they'll double down yet again. All right, U.S. Marshals Service, Memphis Safe Task Force update as of October 24th, 2025. I haven't seen one of these in probably at least a week. So 1,457 total arrests. 274 illegal guns have been seized as of today. And 81 missing children have been located, and 113 gang members have been arrested. Way to go. The federal agents in Memphis, U.S. Marshals, they're the ones that put together this image. All right. Good work. Energy and Commerce Committee. Illegal aliens should not be receiving taxpayer-funded health care, plain and simple. But unfortunately, Democrats are keeping the government shut down over just this. Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill, Galuak Rotgai is a 41-year-old illegal alien from South Sudan. In 2012, he was convicted of attempted second-degree murder by beating a man unconscious with a baseball bat. He has received $34,223 in quote-unquote free taxpayer-funded health care through Medicaid. Democrats are demanding continued funding of this violent illegal aliens Medicaid as a condition for reopening the government and paying the hardworking public servants at my department. And there he is there. And that's appalling. It's appalling to me because I herniated the fourth lumbar in my back in 2015. It's still been untreated. It flares up. I got it under control thanks to, just simple exercise. And I never would have thought that I would be advocating for yoga, but yoga is absolutely a godsend for my condition. But yeah, I can't afford to get it surgically treated or see a specialist or anything like that because it would require me paying up to $8,000 worth of a deductible, of which I don't have. So meanwhile, people like him are getting quote unquote free healthcare courtesy of my tax dollars. Meanwhile, I can't get healthcare, at least not the healthcare that I really need, that I would like to get. I mean, I get along without it, but it would sure be nice to, be able to get the life that I had before I injured my back. I mean, that's the main reason why I don't travel. I can't drive in a car for more than an hour without getting into excruciating pain. Believe me, I've tried everything. I've tried all kinds of things like seating adjustments. I've tried lumbar supports, back supports. I've rolled up towels. I've used pillows. I've done just about anything I can research and find on the internet. It doesn't nothing fixes it if I'm in the car for like an hour or longer. It really sucks. But anyway. All right, so moving on. Secretary Sean Duffy, I've already withheld $40 million from California for not enforcing our English language requirements. There's another $160 million on the line if California doesn't immediately comply with U.S. Department of Transportation's rules, We have to use every tool in the toolbox to protect the American people since California Governor Gavin Newsom won't. So let's hear what he has to say.
What else besides defunding
on
these
Sean
states
Hannity's
is
show,
available
Fox
to
News.
you to prevent more of this from happening? How is that not?
Dude, they got to beef up their quality, man. This sucks.
Well, in regard to our rules, I already took $40 million from the state of California. I'm doing a quick review of their lack of compliance for our rules. I have the ability, and I'm going to pull almost another $160 million. And then I have the ability for California to say, listen, you don't follow any of these rules that keep Americans safe. We're going to revoke your ability to issue a commercial driver's license.
Well, if anything, he should coordinate with, I don't know, other cabinet members or whoever he needs to coordinate in the federal government and try to get, well, it probably would actually take an act of Congress to do it, but they should try to remove all federal funding from California, or at least a hell of a lot more than $160 million. They got to hit them where it hurts, because $160 million in California is like nothing. I mean, they're not really going to flinch over that. But they really got to do something that's going to affect California in a very direct way, to the point where it may end up having to affect everyday Californians, to the point where people start calling up Governor Newsom's office and saying, dude, fucking get this shit done. Like why do you keep screwing around, dude? You're messing with us now.
We have to use every tool in the toolbox to fight back and push back. But Donald Trump has said this many times, we have to find the funding. Who's supporting, who's funding all of these organizations with the ICE tracker, with these protests? We should know what radical left-wing billionaires are funneling this radical.
Well, yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to figure it out.
Not keeping basic Americans straight. And if you don't think that the American people,
come on, they're not
Donald
exchanging
Trump is
duffel bags of cash in dark parking garages.
He won the popular vote. He won the 7
or maybe they are. I don't
states. America wants us to make sure we get illegals out of the country. And you do that by way of ICE and aggressive action. But Kristi Noem, kudos to her. She has been relentless in her effort, regardless of what her agents are being thrown. They're going into the hardest places, whether L.A. or Chicago or New York, and they're arresting the bad people that are hurting American citizens. And that's what our country voted for with President Trump.
Yeah, we certainly did. Popular majority. First time a Republican got the popular majority in 20 years. So as far as what established ICE, I've got this. So what law was passed? It was the Homeland Security Act of 2002. It was the law that established the framework for immigration and customs enforcement, passed in response to the 9/11 attacks. And the act also created the Department of Homeland Security. And on March 1st of 2003, split the functions of the former Immigration and Naturalization Services, INS, into 3 new agencies within the DHS, which is ICE and U.S. Customs and Border Protection and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So I've got this from the House of Representatives, H.R. 5005. On July 26th of 2002, the House initially passed a version of the Homeland Security Act with the following party split. The yeas, 208 Republicans voted yes, and 87 Democrats also voted yes. The nays, 11 Republicans and 120 Democrats voted against it. And in the Senate, 46 Republicans and 42 Democrats voted yes. And look at this, only 8 Democrats voted no. It looks like all the Republicans voted yes, and 1 independent. So it even got the majority of votes by Senate Democrats to establish ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Times have changed. Okay, so all right, so I got that done. From U.S. DOT Rapid Response Secretary Duffy, it's a quote, so let's just hear what he has to say.
He is right to say that multiple failures, and still this driver got his license before killing 3 people in Florida. And the truth is, I think we have a lot of fraud and abuse in the commercial driver license issuing space. Companies that are here testing drivers. Again, the driver that we're mentioning in Florida, he didn't speak English.
Well, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like the truck driving schools, and also, I don't know, well, I'm assuming that you have to go through the license branch or something related to that, some government agency on the state level to get a CDL. But yeah, that does beg the question, how many people are going to these programs that are paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get their training and or their CDL license, and they're not even given a proper exam. They're not even vetted for their driving skills, and they're just handed a license in exchange for X amount of dollars. I think they should be investigating that too.
3 or 4 road signs he couldn't read, and a clear violation of the rule. So the question
becomes, I think it was 4 out of 10.
You can't understand English. You can't understand road signs. How in the heck can you ever pass a test to be issued a commercial driver's license? you can't do it but for fraud. And so that is another
Probably.
investigation that we have undertaken to find out who are the good companies,
A
who are the
bribery,
fraudulent
too.
bad companies, and we have to root them out. Again, you should expect to be safe when you're on the road. And by the way, John, it's these very foreign drivers with these kind of licenses that don't just drive the big rig or the tanker. They're also driving school buses, getting behind the wheel,
great.
taking kids to and from school.
buses.
And there's no certainty that they actually have the skills to drive those vehicles. They understand the English language to stay safe when they're on the roadways. So a whole bunch of issues at play. And again, this comes under the backdrop of Joe Biden and Democrats letting 10 to 15 million illegals in the country. And now Gavin Newsom and others are bending over themselves to allow them to get commercial driver's licenses. And again, Trump administration, Donald Trump has said, we put America first. We are going to stop this charade. No more licenses until we can figure out how many problems we have in the system. And so Gavin didn't follow it. We put the rule out, and now we're going to take his money. We have other steps after money that we can take with California, but I want them to comply, John.
What was that show called? Like Most Dangerous Roads or something like that? I've seen some of those on YouTube. It was on some cable TV show, but India's got quite a few of those crazy roads that are up in the Himalayas. I always assumed that Indian truck drivers would be pretty legit as far as their skills in driving. Plus, with the way that the road grids are set up in India, it's just total chaos in some places. So you think they'd have their shit together when it comes to driving a semi-truck, but obviously not. All right, Treasury Department. The Treasury is sanctioning the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, for his role in the global illicit drug trade. Under President Petro, cocaine production in Colombia has exploded to record high rates. Petro, or is it Petro? Petro. He's provided narco-terrorist organizations with benefits. Under President Trump's leadership, we will not tolerate Colombia trafficking drugs into our nation and poisoning Americans. And from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, since President Gustavo Petro came to power, cocaine production in Colombia has exploded to record high rates, flooding the United States and poisoning Americans. President Petro has allowed drug cartels to flourish and refused to stop this activity. Today, President Trump is taking strong action to protect our nation and make clear that we will not tolerate the trafficking of drugs into our nation. And yeah, so that was the same post as above, posted 6 hours ago. And I got this from Abigail Jackson. Guys, this lie is so egregious, even Daniel Dale is fact-checking the Dems. All right, so it's from CNN Politics. Facts first. Fact check. Democratic leaders misleadingly snip White House press secretary's quote-unquote main priority, quote, out of context. And I brought this up yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I believe it was yesterday. I brought it up. I showed the video clip, and I broke it down also because Democrats like Chuck Schumer are trying to take it completely out of context. Either Senate or House Democrats, they posted that same clip. But yesterday, Democrats, they posted a 30-second clip of it, and it's Caroline Leavitt explaining that there is a project happening with the Rose Garden in the White House, and the reporter was simply asking if there were any other construction projects that Trump was looking at with regard to the White House, and she said, not at this time. We've got the Rose Garden project going, but President Trump's main priority is the White House ballroom. Almost verbatim, that is what she said. And of course, you got somebody like Chuck Schumer, who's saying, at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority. It's hard to wrap your mind around it because of how callous it is. But that's what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt actually said out loud to press proudly. So, I mean, I'm sure he's going to get tons of, backfire from that. I mean, look at this. He got almost 800 likes for that, but look how many comments he got. He got 1,800. Ladies and gentlemen, that's called a ratio. That means that people have taken the time and the effort to leave a comment, which 95% of the time, it's going to be a negative comment, not a positive comment, because it's much easier just to click the like as opposed to taking the time to leave a comment. So you're going to see a lot of pushback on this, which, I mean, I could look for the video, but you can watch my episode from yesterday and get the video clip, or you could just look it up yourself. It was Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, and I'm sure the White House actually posted the full video as well. So yeah, of course, Democrats, as always, taking everything completely out of context. So Senator Amy Klobuchar, live reactions to the demolition of the East Wing with my friend, which for the record, they're not demolishing the East Wing. They're demolishing an exterior facade, which is a narrow driveway. It's a covered driveway, which is like an awning, basically, where vehicles can drive underneath if it's raining or if the weather's bad, and they can get out and simply walk into the building. They're tearing down just that driveway area. They're not demolishing any interior of the White House at all. None of it. Just the outside facade is what they're demolishing. And of course, Democrats are making it sound like that they're just absolutely obliterating the entire, like half of the entire fucking White House, which they're not doing. But anyway, let's see what their reaction is to this nonsense.
Zone. That is what it is.
Amy Klobuchar and
This is a
Elizabeth Warren,
construction zone.
Pocahontas.
Donald Trump can't hear people asking for help because
Trump
there's
derangement
all
syndrome.
this
It's
chaos
real,
here.
people.
I mean, these are like
It should be in the DSM-5. It really should.
right in front of our eyes.
Leveling the people's house so that he can build a gold-encrusted ballroom.
And you think, how much does this cost? And he said 200 million, right?
Yeah.
A few weeks ago.
Oh my God, did they dream about the Orange Man? They fantasize about the Orange Man.
And an unbelievable
The Orange
amount
Cheeto
of money
dictator.
just for this vanity project of his with this golden ballroom.
Yeah, and
This vanity
meanwhile,
project.
What's happening on groceries, on utilities, the cost.
Biden.
Up
Exactly.
and up.
Well, kind of like the ballroom. So,
Yeah.
you know, that
Groceries
from
went up
200 to
30% under
300 million,
Biden,
but what
across the board,
really
on average.
People see is what's happening with all of their groceries, what's happening with electricity, healthcare premiums, and he
Democrats and
literally
Biden.
won't even take the time. He's like,
Same with healthcare. We all know that the healthcare situation got extremely, out of control as soon as Obamacare was passed. They had to back it up with subsidies since the day it was passed because it was completely it wasn't to be function in any way that they told the American people it was going to function. You can't get your doctor, but we told you were going to be able to choose your doctor, but you're not. And they had to dish out subsidies on Obamacare literally for its entire existence. And if you got to subsidize any government program, that means the program's already failed.
oh, super. He's become a construction manager.
No, I know, but he
I know.
says he can't do anything on healthcare because we can't afford it.
That's
Well,
right.
he
This is
didn't get
what
$1
we
billion
can afford,
from
according
nothing,
to
lady.
Donald Trump tearing down the people's
And what
house.
else is he doing? He's
Yeah, because Donald Trump's totally inside this crane vehicle, just personally, just fuck you, White House, bam, fuck you, White House, bam, fuck you, Democrats. Yeah,
going
okay.
out of town like you do, right?
Well,
When you
yeah,
have
if you've got a
construction.
big construction site next door, of course it's the time
So
to
you
go
go out
out.
of town, he goes one place, he goes another, he's meeting with all these leaders there to negotiate, but he won't come down and meet with us. He won't come down and meet with our leaders. He won't do that because he's got to supervise this big, beautiful ballroom
Right.
construction.
Notice how they have the
There you
footage
have
zoomed
Donald
in so you
Trump
can't
shut down.
actually see
Lots
that
of
they're only
destruction
taking down the
will help
facade
America.
and they're not in any way removing the interior of the building. These people are fucking lunatics. Anyway, so of course, 700 likes, 2,800 comments. So a ratio of 4 to 1. And who is that on Amy Klobuchar's channel? So obviously they're getting completely wrecked for that. All right, Social Security breaking 75 million Americans will get a 2.8% increase in monthly Social Security benefits and SSI payments in 2026. Check our blog for more information, which I'll link in the description. So if you or anyone you know, anyone you live with, if they're on Social Security, they're about to get a bump, 2.8% increase. I'm sure that's not nearly enough in the face of the Democrats with their 30% grocery increase and their doubling of Obamacare, which they blame the Republicans for, but it's completely their fault. Republicans never voted for Obamacare. Democrats 100% voted for it. As well as every other, every fucking thing that they touch that just turns to pure shit. It's like the anti-Midas touch with Democrats. All right, Caroline Levitt, inflation came in below market expectations in September thanks to President Trump's economic agenda. This is good news for American families, and it's a shame the Democrats are using them as leverage to fund healthcare for illegals. Democrats choosing to keep the government closed will likely result in no October inflation report, which will leave businesses, markets, families, and the Federal Reserve in disarray. Okay, and from Kush Desai, quote, as I've often said, our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. And that's a quote from President Ronald Reagan. So this happened. This is from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. They learned that the government of Ontario, Canada, created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Ronald Reagan delivering his, quote, radio address to the nation on free and fair trade, end quote, dated on April 25th, 1987. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter. We encourage you to watch President Reagan's unedited video on our YouTube channel. And President Trump, he posted on his True Social about this. The Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement, which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. All right. And of course, Canada, they got plenty of tariffs against the United States. They have for decades. But, but it works for them if they use the tariffs, but it's not good when we use them, though. From RNC Research, you voted for the shutdown, dipshit. And this is in response to Rep. Eric Swallowswell. It's day 23 of the second longest government shutdown. Republicans, fix it. We need to go back to work and serve the people we represent. And I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't get ratioed. It came pretty close, 748 to 644. I can only imagine... Probably can't go too far because things get a little spicy on the X platform in the comments section. So anyway, current member of Congress, CCP spy. We already saw that to be true. I'm surprised that they're not going after him with any criminal investigation with regard to that, because I'm sure he gave her plenty of intel. All right, so why did you vote to close it again? And do you still SD for free? I almost read it, but no, almost. So anyway, this was the initial vote. The yes is the vote to pass the CR funding or spending bill to keep the government reopened until the end of November, when the big spending bill is up for a vote. 55% of Republicans voted yes to pass the CR bill. When was that at this point? It was September 30th, wasn't it? And the Democrats, of course, voted no, and they're the ones that received the check mark because the Senate needs 60 votes in order for the funding bill to pass. As it says up there at the top, requires 60% of the vote to pass. So the Democrats effectively won, even though they're the minority. That's how the Senate works. Anyway, so let me head back to where we were. From Speaker Mike Johnson, Chuck Schumer wants only 4 people to go into a smoke-filled back room. I'm sure it's not literally smoke-filled, but I get what he's saying. He wants to quietly meet behind closed doors so the media and the public doesn't hear what he really wants to propose. And of course, he's going to say, I'm telling you this in confidence. This is classified. And, because I'm sure there's probably certain rooms in Congress that if you're officially inside that room, everything that you say in there is quote unquote classified. And I'm sure that's exactly where Chuck Schumer wants to go. So anyway, he wants to meet in private behind the backs of the American people to cut some shady deal. That's not how this works. I promise to end Congress's bad habit of backroom shadowy politics. I refuse to cut secret deals that put the American people last. But that's what Schumer has always done during his 44 years in Congress. The old way stops now. Well, that's very admirable of Speaker Johnson. Highly respect him for doing that, if indeed what he is saying is true, which I don't think that would surprise anybody. I'm sure Chuck Schumer, he practically lives in those rooms. But anyway, here, let's hear what he has to say.
There's also been
on
reports,
CNBC.
Speaker, that Leader Schumer would almost like to have almost a backroom negotiation. Maybe it would involve President Trump. Maybe it would involve Majority Leader Thune. Maybe you as well. To just get a couple of things out, not to...
Yeah, and I would love to hear what he would say, which Speaker Johnson wants all of us to hear what he has to say. It would be something like, okay, well, maybe we bit off more than we can chew. So what can we do to make this go away? Or he might just go in there and say, okay, we don't want $1.5 trillion. We want $1.49 trillion worth of spending for illegal immigrants and all this other bullshit that we've been asking for all the DEI programs, refunding USAID, giving money back to NPR and fucking PBS and all that shit.
1.5 trillion, all the things that you outlined, but maybe just the Obamacare enhanced subsidies. Can you confirm that has been something that Senator Schumer? Yeah.
Yeah, I
can
can.
confirm it. He said it
No.
publicly, breathlessly. He's complained that 4 leaders won't go in a back room, smoke-filled room, and make a deal. That's not how this works. I don't operate that way. When I became Speaker, I vowed to my colleagues that we would return to regular order. I would decentralize the Speaker's office, and it would not be a top-down, hoisted upon the membership kind of program anymore. This is a member-driven.
Well, you think that Democrats would highly respect that, and they would commend that, since they want our country to essentially become a socialism, authoritarian, damn near dictatorship. At least that's what it would devolve into. But socialism. So, we should be transparent with all the people, because they want to create the people's government.
Consensus-driven operation. That's how the founders intended it to work. They did not want 4 people to go in a back room and make a deal.
No.
By the way, I couldn't do that on something as complicated as extension of Obamacare COVID subsidies, because we have to find the consensus. There's 100 different ideas on how to improve that, and we needed the time in October and November to work through that with all the members. I refuse to go in a back room with Chuck Schumer and make a deal.
Amen.
I don't operate that way. It's not good for the people. It's not good for financial stewardship, and it's part of the reason we're $37 trillion in debt as a nation, because you have 2 or 3 or 4 people in a back room doing that. We're not operating that way. That's Chuck Schumer's old way. We need this to work for the people again, and that's what I'm insistent upon. And I'll keep telling them that publicly and privately.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Speaker Johnson, he just went up a couple notches in my book for him actually coming out and saying that, because he didn't have to come out and say that. He could have just kept that to himself. And I'm sure in the past that he probably would have kept it to himself. But now that times are a-changing. All right, from Fox News, breaking: an anonymous donor gave $130 million to the Department of War to help ensure U.S. troops are paid during the ongoing government shutdown, a Pentagon spokesman said. Let me see. It's from Fox News, so I know they got an article linked down here as soon as it decides to open. All right, here we go. And from here, it's anonymous, so, how much information are we really going to learn from this? Probably not a whole lot, but maybe we'll get something out of this. So the Department of War received an anonymous donation of $130 million on Thursday to go toward paying U.S. troops during the government shutdown, but Congress may need to get involved for it to actually get in the hands of service members due to legal limitations. Oh, that sucks. Well, you know what? If it can't get into the hands of the troops, perhaps the donor could legally get that money back. I would hope so. If you can't get it directly to the military to keep their pay, at least put it into something. Like take that $130 million and fully stock all the food banks that are nearby all the military bases, because that was reported a couple of weeks ago that there were food banks within the vicinity of some of the military bases around the country where they reported that they saw longer lines of military service members than they have ever seen in the history of running these food banks. So that's what I would do if I were him. I would somehow, if they're not going to be able to get it into the hands of the military, those who are not getting paid, he could at least allocate or direct those funds to food banks. I don't know. All right, on October 23rd, 2025, the Department of War accepted an anonymous donation of $130 million under its General Gift Acceptance Authority, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said in a statement to Fox News Digital on Friday. General Gift Acceptance Authority. I've never heard of that one. All right, quote, the donation was made on the condition that it be used to offset the cost of service members' salaries and benefits. We are grateful for this donor's assistance after Democrats opted to withhold pay from troops. But it's unclear how the Trump administration can legally use the funds to pay troops without Congress's involvement. Isn't that the whole point of this program existing? What was it called again? Yeah, General Gift Acceptance Authority. You'd think that they would have the authority to direct those funds to wherever the donor instructed those funds to go to. While the government may accept general donations that go toward general funds available to the government, Congress must appropriate that money to go toward federal employees' salaries, according to Romina Boccia, the director of budget and entitlement policy at the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank in Washington. Quote, the department is welcome to acknowledge this donor's intent, but that does not change the legal restrictions on Congress needing to appropriate funds to pay military salaries, Boccia said in a Friday email to Fox News. Boccia said that the military is only permitted to accept private donations to support institutions like military schools, libraries, and museums, or to support service members or civilian employees who are wounded or killed in the line of duty. Food banks, donate it to food banks. Altering current restrictions would also require congressional intervention, she said. The only way to get around this restriction is if Congress decided to recategorize troop pay as mandatory or direct spending. What? So paying the troops is not categorized as mandatory spending, huh? That's kind of wild. All right, mandatory spending does not require annual approval from Congress and applies to programs like Social Security and Medicare, according to the Treasury. Congress has the power of the purse, and Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution establishes that Congress is the branch of government with the authority to manage the federal budget. President Trump announced Thursday that a friend of his had sent the government a $130 million check to go toward paying U.S. service members as their paychecks are on hold due to the budget stalemate. He called us the other day and said, "I'd like to contribute any shortfall you have because of the Democrat shutdown. I'd like to contribute personally because I love the military and I love the country," Trump said on Thursday. It's unclear who the donor is, and Trump said he would not identify the individual unless he received permission to do so, noting he didn't believe the individual wanted any recognition. The White House referred Fox News Digital to the Department of War and the Department of Treasury when asked about the additional details. So there you have it. That's a hell of a noble donation. But yeah, as I said, if he's able to somehow, like, if they definitively can't put that money into the hands of the troops, because, you know, Democrats, they're not going to play ball. Look, I don't know if they can handle that exclusively in the House. I doubt it. It probably has to go through the Senate as well. But the Republicans, they got a majority in the House. But if it's going to get jammed up in the Senate, that $130 million, maybe there's a way that he can try to get that money back and then put it towards like something tangible that the troops could use, such as food or something along those lines, like something else that he could cover, like maybe like pay all of their cell phone bills or something like that. I don't know. All right, Senate Republicans. So let me first start with this one from Senator Jeanne Shaheen. "We're facing a historic rise in premiums on the ACA marketplace because Republicans in Congress refused to work with Democrats to extend enhanced premium tax credits that made health insurance costs more affordable. The stakes are simply too high. We must get this done." Like, I don't have to say it for the billionth time, the Democrats 100% own this. They're literally talking about Obamacare. Have you noticed in recent years that they haven't used the word Obamacare, at least not in quite a while? They keep using either ACA or the ACA marketplace because it doesn't sound Democrat-owned if they use either the acronym or they just use that phrase, even though it is 100% Obamacare. So, and they're responding to Paige W. Cunningham's scoop. Average ACA benchmark premiums will rise 30% next year. Government documents show, which Democrats keep saying they're going to double, they're going to triple, they're going to go up 3x, 4x, 5x. It sounds like 30% unless I'm reading that wrong. All right, this will be the second largest annual premium hike since the marketplaces started 12 years ago. Oh, there you go. There's Obamacare right there, because that's what it is. It is Obamacare. Washington Post, if you want to read it, you can read it. I didn't actually plan on clicking this far to get there, but I saw it, so I'll link it. And so the Senate Republicans, they say, false. Health insurance is unaffordable because Obamacare caused premiums to skyrocket. Democrats have closed the government to protest a failure of their own making. If Democrats want to discuss these failures, they need to open the government. And look, I've said it before, back in the 2000s, as late as 2009, the health insurance I had at the time, it was about $180, maybe $150. It was below $200. And it was $250 copay for an inpatient hospital visit, no matter how long I was there. If I was there for 3 months, it would cost $250. That's it. And specialist visit was $35, immediate care was $50, and primary care physician was $20. I did have an inpatient surgical procedure in 2010, which I used my insurance for, and I ended up paying about $300. I was in the hospital for 10 days after my procedure, and my follow-up visits, I had to follow up with my doctor for about 2 months after that, and I probably went there 4 or 5 times, and in total, it was about $300. That was it. At the end of the day, $300. Now, I was in my 20s. It wasn't like I was a senior or anything, but still, that is a very far cry from where we are right now, because I got an email from the Obamacare folks, like it was like around 2015, and they said, apply for the Affordable Care Act. Here's how to apply. So just out of just simple curiosity, I applied just to see what my rate would be for the exact same insurance plan, the $250 inpatient and so on. It was $1,400 or $1,500 a month. Absolutely crazy. And that was only 5 years after I used my insurance for that procedure that I needed. And Oh my God, it went up like, what was that, like 7 times? Yeah, 7, maybe up to 8 times more expensive than it was just 5 years before. Absolutely insane. And that insurance that I had, it was from the company I worked for. It wasn't some, earth-shatteringly amazing company that has the best insurance on earth. I'm pretty sure it was pretty average insurance at the time. So yeah, I mean, I know directly in my experience that Obamacare absolutely fucked up our health insurance industry, and it's been pissing me off for a long time. Like I said, I injured my back in 2015, and I can't get it fixed because I don't have that kind of money. I truly don't. All right, so moving on to the Trump War Room. Secretary Duffy calls out Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and Bernie Sanders for collecting paychecks while our hardworking men and women who control our skies aren't. So let's hear what he has to say.
I do think there's a frustration with our controllers that Hakeem Jeffries,
yeah, they're probably going to walk out after
Bernie
long
Sanders, enough. They're all going to get their paychecks. Well, these men and women who control our skies.
That is so fucked up, man. That they can close down the government, but members of Congress can keep getting paid. You would think that members of Congress, that it would be written into I don't know, U.S. code something, somewhere in the law, that if there is a government shutdown, that Congress would be among those who don't get paid. But they made damn sure to make sure that they get paid whenever the government shut down. That is just so fucked up, man.
Aren't going to be paid because of the shutdown. I think there's also a frustration that the shutdown is about paying for health care benefits for illegal immigrants. I think
in part, it is.
Who, again,
not wholly, but in part it is.
Want their Congress to focus on America and Americans.
Now, to be fair, Trump keeps saying that they want $1.5 trillion for health care for illegal immigrants. That's not actually true. They don't want that much money for the health care. They want $1.5 trillion for everything they're asking for, including the funding for USAID. It was like, $6 or $7 billion they want to give back to public broadcasting and a bunch of other initiatives. It adds up to $1.5 trillion. I think they want like $400 billion for climate change initiatives, as if like the trillions of dollars they've already gotten hasn't been enough yet. But it's something like $300 billion or $400 billion they want to put into extending the Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act subsidies for another 10 years. And they're unwilling to write out illegal immigrants in the Democrats' proposed legislation. Instead, they're saying non-citizens. That's how they're wording it in the legislation. And plus, the problem with Medicaid is that the state level will allow illegal immigrants, like in California. They get their insurance through Medi-Cal, and that's how illegal immigrants get the health care that they get in California. And then the federal government pays back California for those funds. So it's this ridiculous, convoluted, complex process, but they're not asking for $1.5 trillion specifically for illegal immigrants. They're asking for somewhere like in the vicinity of $500 billion for Medicaid, which will in part go to illegal immigrants. So, they're not entirely correct, but they're correct enough to really make that statement that Americans simply don't want. We don't want illegal aliens getting health care. It's unbelievably retarded. It's absolutely retarded that they can get health care, but natural-born American citizens like myself who've been working my entire adult life, paying taxes my entire adult life, I can't get the health care that I need, but they can. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Are asking the question, why are Senate Democrats focused on health care benefits for illegals? Maybe focus on me and my paycheck and the services that I provide.
Oh, yeah. Also, by the way, notice how Democrats are not denying this either. I've seen a few Democrats come out and say, well, we're not asking for illegal immigrant health care. Like they twist their words around to make it sound like that they're not asking for it, but they're not blatantly coming out and saying, we don't want a dime for illegal immigrants. We don't want anything. We'll even put it word for word that illegal immigrants are not qualified for receiving. They don't say anything like that. So just their silence alone just speaks volumes that they absolutely want the health care to go to illegal immigrants.
Open up the government, negotiate, have a conversation, but don't hold them, their paychecks, their families hostage so you can give benefits to illegal migrants.
They don't care, man. They're sadists at this point.
An overarching concern and theme, and I appreciate
economic
that NAFTA
sadists
doesn't get political. They don't. But what I think you will hear from Nick is they're asking for the government to open. They're asking for everyone to come together make sure they all get paid, and then take the time to have conversations, to negotiate. But the answer is never shut down the government. The answer is open the government and then have a dialogue, come to resolution.
I'm telling you what, it's going to be a matter of time when air traffic control, if they miss a number of paychecks, they're going to start staging walkouts, especially with Thanksgiving around the corner and the Christmas season around the corner, the busiest travel time of the year, where I'm sure if there's any time of the year that air traffic controllers are being overworked, it's certainly going to be in November and December. And if they're not getting a paycheck on top of that, wouldn't surprise me in the least if you start seeing lots of air traffic controllers just simply walking off the job. And if that happens, they may have to close international airports in certain parts of the country. And the air traffic controllers who are still willing to work, they may have to be moved to another airport where other air traffic controllers have walked off the job in order to keep them open, like at Atlanta International Airport, the busiest airport on the planet. They're going to have to keep that airport running. But if enough air traffic controllers, if they walk out and say, no, I can't do it anymore. I simply can't do it anymore. Because a lot of air traffic controllers, they work like 90 hours a pay period. So they're already working well over 40 hours a week. So they don't really have a whole lot of extra time to do side gigs like drive for Uber, which I think Sean Duffy mentioned that he spoke to some air traffic controllers and they were looking into driving for Uber or delivering like Uber Eats, which it's kind of mind-blowing to me that an air traffic controller, because they get paid really well. I think they get paid six figures. Just the thought that they have to resort to gig work like that is just mind-blowing to me. But yes, it wouldn't surprise me if we get into the Christmas season and we might start hearing about the possibility of airports being indefinitely closed, which is absolutely crazy. And it's not just the air travel, not just the American people, just the travelers who are going to be impacted by it. Also, like FedEx and UPS, the Postal Service. I mean, they do a lot of flights when they're delivering cargo from place to place. Not sure if the military probably won't get affected by it, not in the way that everybody else will as far as air travel, but it's possible. They could be affected by it. So anyway, man, I think they could potentially get pretty crazy, because if I were to put a bet on it, I got a feeling that this government's going to be shut down into next year. I mean, you heard it here. I believe that it will, and I have a feeling I'm not wrong on that, but anyway, we'll have to see what happens. Senator James Lankford, in 2013, Democrats said they would not negotiate on health care while the government is closed. So what changed? Why would Republicans negotiate on what were supposed to be temporary emergency COVID subsidies Democrats put in place, all while the government is shut down? We have those hard conversations, but we need to open the government first.
They did.
This is on CNBC.
That's been the challenge we've had along it. We said over and over again, 13 times we've had a continuing resolution where we've got to the same moment. In the last 13 times, we voted to say, okay, let's keep negotiating, let's keep it open on it. And Democrats this time just say they're mad at Trump, and so they're not going to do it at this point. And the crazy thing is they keep saying, well, this is about health care piece. Well, in 2013, as folks recall, Republicans were mad about Obamacare. We were pretty clear about it, and we had a big government shutdown. It was shorter than this one. And Democrats at that time said, we will not negotiate on health care while the government is closed. Well, now it's literally the opposite.
Well, there you go.
That we're saying we're not going to negotiate on healthcare. Healthcare is incredibly complicated. You can't do it while people are not getting SNAP benefits, people are not getting paid, air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. Well, you can't sit there and say, we'll do this little tweak and that's going to be enough. It's not enough. So let's actually have a real conversation about all these issues, but not while there's a shutdown.
Well, and look, frankly, Democrats are not going to agree to anything that Republicans are going to propose with regard to healthcare, because I would say initiative number one, repeal Obamacare, get rid of it. It has absolutely torpedoed our insurance industry. It's like, what, 3-4 times more expensive than it was 15 years ago for health insurance. Plus, most of us have to deal with these stupid deductibles now, where a lot of that didn't even exist before Obamacare started. So that's going to be item number one, I'm assuming, with Republicans. And Democrats, that's probably going to be a non-starter for them, because their big answer is just to keep dumping money into it, keep cutting blank checks to the health insurance industries and to just the healthcare industry in general. And I don't know, man. I just hope that Republicans don't end up playing that, just throwing hundreds of billions of dollars at it forever and ever, because that's not going to fix anything. It's only going to make it forever get more and more expensive. And then you're really going to see, ironically, the Affordable Care Act has become about as unaffordable as you can imagine. And it's just done the opposite, just like so many other things that they've passed in Congress. Not just the Democrats, but also the Republicans, too. All right, so House Republicans watch Hakeem Jeffries get called out on CNBC for lying about the shutdown. Democrats are responsible for the shutdown. They've rejected the clean, nonpartisan funding bill 13 times. And yeah, so that's the current clean, nonpartisan funding bill. Not to be confused with the number of times that they have already passed the CR bill, which I believe is also 13 times. It's the identical, exact same bill that they've been passing for something like 5 years. This clean CR bill, it's been passed in the past over and over and over again. Republicans have not added a single word to it. So that's the big question. Why would the Democrats say no to this CR bill this time when they've already passed it 13 times? But in this instance, they've tried to pass this current spending bill 13 times, and all 13 times Democrats have said no. So let's hear what this bonehead has to say.
We haven't shut the government down. Donald Trump is the president. Republicans control the House and the Senate. And what we've repeatedly made clear is that we would not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people in an environment where Republicans already enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing because of Republican policies in their one big ugly bill.
That is absolutely the opposite of what actually happened, that they passed in the big beautiful bill, they passed $50 billion that's being allocated for rural hospitals all around the country. Literally doing the opposite of what he just said.
All across the country. Medicare is facing a $536 billion
everything Democrats
cut
say
at the
the
end of
opposite's
the
always
year
usually true.
unless Congress acts, again connected to the one big ugly bill. And now Republicans are refusing to even consider extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits when open enrollment starts on November 1st. This is a now issue.
But Leader Jeffries, you kind of conflated a spending bill with a clean CR. It's only 24 pages. It keeps the government open at this point. And the House passed it. It's ready to go. The Senate has it.
Yep.
I know that the Republicans control everything, but you know how the filibuster works. And God forbid.
Oh, I have a feeling it's this. Well, we had to do it now. We had to stop the CR bill because open enrollment, it starts November 1st. But the big funding bill that we're going to pass for next year doesn't come up until, I think it's like November 18th or something like that. That's probably going to be his stupid excuse.
Republicans, fold on the filibuster because it'll be used, both parties will use it against the other. It's one of the last safeguards that make the Senate different than the House. And the only reason the Senate can't do it is purely because of Democrats. And you had one of 100%. Your colleagues in the Senate.
Oh, you hear that on CNBC, liberal CNBC. Just said it word for word to Hakeem Jeffries, the bonehead himself, that it's 100% the Democrats' fault for the shutdown.
Dave, this is the only leverage we have. People are going to get hurt. This is the only leverage we have to get what we want on health care. That's a bad look.
Yeah, and what the American people are saying is that you're actually hurting, 700,000 up to 1 million federal employees who are not getting paychecks, and the Democrats' answer is fuck you. I mean, that's really all they're saying. They're just saying go F yourself. All right, Senate Republican Communications Center. Watch. Rep. Jeffries. Oh, this might actually be the same. Is it going to be the same? 132, 146. It's CNBC. It's possible that it might just be another segment of the same conversation. So I'll at least give it a go and see if maybe they talk about it something else besides what they just discussed. So Rep. Jeffries is called out for Democrats' bait and switch on Obamacare subsidies. This is a setup of your own creation. Now you want the Republicans to do something you didn't do when you were in power? Democrats made this mess, but they demanded Republicans fix it. So yeah, I think this might be different. But anyway, let's hear.
There was an op-ed in Roll Call.
Oh yeah, it is. Okay, good.
That was pretty interesting on this. It said what you are asking the Republicans to do right now when they control the White House, the Senate, and the House is effectively what the Democrats could not do when they controlled all three of those heads of government themselves. The 10-year setup for this, for these, or the 3-year setup for the expiration of these credits was intentionally put in. It was put in when you controlled the White House, and the Senate. You couldn't get it passed for longer. And so this is a setup that kind of your own creation that you all couldn't extend beyond that. Now you want the Republicans to do something you didn't do when you were in power?
Yeah, he ain't going to say anything about that. He's going to twist
what we could do. We extended the Affordable Care Act tax credits in 2022 for 3 years.
I mean, it's so nice, though, to see that liberal media is finally just turning up the heat against the Democrats, because it's just because the media knows that the American people are they're totally well aware of what's happening. It's extremely simple to explain. 5 Senate Democrats voted no on the spending bill. The end. That's why the government shut down.
The program is working. It's providing health care to tens of millions of people in an affordable way, and it should be continued. It's interesting to us that Republicans...
Dude, if the government has to subsidize it, by definition, it ain't affordable.
...decided that they would prefer to permanently extend massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors in their one big ugly bill, which...
Okay, well, how do you connect that with healthcare, dude? I'm still waiting on that answer.
Also, at the same time, dramatically increased the debt and enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, but refused to consider extending Affordable Care Act tax credits that actually benefit working-class Americans, everyday Americans, and middle-class Americans. Their priorities are misplaced, and as Democrats, we're going to continue to fight for the American people all across the country, in rural America, urban America, small-town America, the heartland of America, and, of course, black and brown communities throughout America, all of whom are being devastated by this Republican healthcare crisis.
It's so fucking frustrating when politicians play those stupid games. They're just trying to run the clock out because they know that news segments on national TV only have like 3, 4, 5 minutes to exchange a conversation. All right. U.S. DOT Rapid Response Secretary Sean Duffy, he gives a quote: "No one can be held hostage by Democrats. Air traffic controllers will not be held hostage either."
It's really simple, John. Open up the government, pay these controllers, and then sit down and negotiate. But no one can be held hostage by Democrats. And the air traffic controllers will not be held hostage either. They're looking at getting second
they kind of
jobs.
are, though,
looking at driving
financially.
Uber, DoorDash. They have gas payments, put in their car. They're paying for childcare, mortgages. They're like every single American who may live paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford this. They actually have the airlines, John, that are sending food in to the towers and the centers to say thank you for showing up, and I'll take a little bit off your back.
TGI Fridays did that.
Provide you a
The
lunch,
company.
a breakfast, or a dinner. We're going to help you out. But it shouldn't be that way. They should get their paychecks, and it's Democrats. If you're delayed this weekend, it's Democrats' fault that they won't open the government and they have air traffic controllers who are wildly frustrated that the Democrats care more about illegal health care than they do about these great patriots who work in our towers.
Well, and this is a hard lesson for federal employees, especially if they're new to working for the federal government, that you've got to have at least 6 months worth of savings to cover all your bills and your expenses, because this shit could happen, and it could happen without any real notice, like what happened in this instance. All right, Caroline Levitt, airlines and pilots demand action as Democrat shutdown pushes air travel to the edge. This is on whitehouse.gov, and it says, as air traffic controllers and TSA agents work without paychecks and widespread flight disruptions threaten to upend holiday travel, Democrats' shameful refusal to end their destructive government shutdown is plunging the U.S. aviation system into chaos. Now the aviation industry is coming together to demand Democrats cease the sick political gamesmanship and end their shutdown before the full-blown crisis grounds the nation's skies. Maybe that's what air traffic controllers should do. Maybe they should start getting themselves in front of the TV cameras and just start putting them on blast and letting the American people know that if they don't reopen this in the next few weeks, you're going to start seeing thousands of air traffic controllers walking off the jobs. And if you have any travel plans for Thanksgiving or Christmas, you might want to cancel it before it's uncancelable. All right, the association representing the biggest U.S. airlines, including American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines, issued a new statement urging swift resolution through Republicans' clean nonpartisan bill. And this is the statement from Airlines for America. At this time of record air travel and increased reliance on cargo shipments, stability and predictability for U.S. aviation are more important than ever. Missed paychecks for the federal employees charged with the safe and efficient facilitation of our national airspace unnecessarily increases stress for the thousands of air traffic controllers, as well as TSA officers and CBP employees who work every day to keep aviation safe and secure. Aviation remains the safest mode of transportation in the world, but to maintain that record, a system under stress must slow down, reducing efficiency and causing delays for travelers and shippers. We urge elected leaders to act with an appropriate sense of urgency to solve this problem and immediately reopen the federal government. The quickest and simplest way to ensure those critical employees are paid is by passing a clean CR. Congress recently made a significant down payment on modernizing the FAA's antiquated air traffic control system. Yeah, they did that over the summer. It's something like 15 or $20 billion that they're going to modernize. Some of these air traffic control towers, they still have technology in there from the 1970s. It's absolutely crazy. The DOT has prioritized supercharging hiring to get air traffic control facilities fully staffed, and the TSA continues to screen historically high numbers of travelers at checkpoints. Congress should build on these positive developments and ensure that commercial aviation can continue to drive the economy and connect Americans with the world. And that also happened this summer, that something like 10,000, it was in the thousands of applicants or of people applied to be air traffic controllers, and they're enrolling in air traffic control school. And it makes me wonder how many of them are going to back out of that, knowing that something like this could happen and just completely uproot their daily life as far as not being able to simply pay their bills, at least if they decide to live paycheck to paycheck. So anyway, major unions collectively representing tens of thousands of pilots for U.S. airlines joined the airlines in calling on Democrats to pass the clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. And this is from the Coalition of American Pilots Association. On behalf of the Coalition of Airline Pilots Association and its 30,000 members, we call on Congress to end the government shutdown by passing a clean, continuing resolution. We, as pilots, adhere to strict procedures promoting safety as our most important priority. We have seen the stress and tension this year on the national airspace systems due to short-staffed air traffic controllers. This shutdown only compounds the pressures they face as they now report to work without a paycheck. It's time to recognize their contributions along with our colleagues at TSA who ensure we fly in the safest skies every day with the trust of the American flying public. Congress must support these men and women by ending this shutdown immediately. And from the Allied Pilots Association President, First Officer Nick Silva, quote, Congress should reconvene and work in a bipartisan manner to pass a clean continuing resolution to fund and reopen the government. We stand with our brothers and sisters in air traffic control and TSA who continue to show up to work every day without a paycheck. These men and women take their oath seriously to guarantee a safe national airspace system so we, the pilots, can ensure the flying public reaches their destinations in a timely manner and without harm. As the shutdown stretches on and airports encounter potential delays, it only intensifies the pressure these aviation professionals confront in the face of not getting paid. It's time we support these men and women and reopen the federal government. And it continues with more statements. Also, another one from, they joined other key industry leaders in calling on Democrats to immediately end the shutdown and return the country to regular order, which includes the Airline Pilots Association, International President Captain Jason Ambrosi, also National Air Traffic Controllers Association President Nick Daniels. And yeah, it looks like, so it finishes off by saying it's hard to overstate the disastrous effects the Democrat shutdown is having on the aviation industry. Every week, the shutdown drags on $1 billion worth of air traffic, or in $1 billion in travel-related spending is lost, while the nation's 13,000 air traffic controllers are preparing to miss their first full paycheck, and Democrats want to use the crisis as leverage in their sick political games. All right. Moving on to RNC research. Democrats shutdown, quote, every day gets better, end quote, for Schumer and Democrats, but worse for Americans. And so they've got this highlighted. Every day gets better for us, Schumer asserted. And this is actually a thread, so they've got more material down here. Air traffic controllers have made the point they have to find other ways to feed their families, whether they're going to drive Uber or they're going to find some short-term employment. But every day gets better for Democrats, according to Chuck Schumer. So we already heard about them getting side gig jobs, but I'll play this out. It's only a minute long. It's not too bad.
Thank you to all our air traffic controllers who do show up for work. We've had a few blips, Joe, in the system where, you know, in one region, one day, another region, another day, we'll have some delays because air traffic controllers are out. There's been some more sick leave than we'd seen in the past. But I'm telling you what, looking forward,
yeah, they're probably at their wits' end.
The next check that comes for air traffic controllers are a week from tomorrow. And I think we could see more disruptions when that happens. A lot of them have made the point they have to find other ways to feed their families, whether they're going to drive Uber or they're going to find some short-term employment. We could see some more disruption. I don't want to see that. I think that would be difficult for the traveling public. But, this is the consequence of a long-term shutdown. We're 20 days in. Republicans have said, let's do a clean CR. Democrats have said, you know what, we want to negotiate on health care, specifically health care for illegals. And Republicans don't really have any room to negotiate because they've done what's clean. What they had in September, Republicans want to have in October. And so there's not room to negotiate. Really, Democrats have to come to the table, stop holding the economy hostage.
Well, and you might be familiar with a fairly well-known show called Breaking Bad. You remember Jesse Pinkman, his girlfriend Jane, when she OD'd and died? Remember her father was an air traffic controller, and the unimaginable stress that he was under just finding out that his daughter had passed away ended up leading to a mid-air collision between two airlines. It was something like 500 people lost their lives when that happened over Albuquerque. Of course, it's work of fiction. Didn't happen in real life. I'm just saying that it just kind of just sort of paints a picture what could happen to an air traffic controller if they're put under unimaginable stress, which, I mean, obviously losing your child is not, I mean, that is like thousands of times worse than not getting a paycheck, of course. However, I just figured that would kind of illustrate that air traffic controllers are under a lot of stress, and when they're distracted enough, bad things can happen. That's why they keep saying that it's imperative that our air traffic controllers are under the least amount of stress possible because they help keep our skies safe. So anyway, RNC research, 1.4 million Georgians like Tabitha Brown are at risk of losing SNAP benefits, which is food stamps. But every day gets better for Democrats, according to Chuck Schumer. Let's hear what she has to say.
When the stamps cut off after this month, what happens next month?
Tabitha Brown, a single mother of 5,
food
worries
banks.
about her kids.
Look, man, food banks, if she's a member of the church, that would be probably my first go-to if I were in her shoes, to talk to her church and let her know, like, I have X amount of kids, 1, 2, however many, and like we have like legitimate, problems when it comes to trying to find food. Is because if the church doesn't have the food, I'm sure that they're connected with other churches or other members of the community where they can find food. Plus, I would also recommend, if you're familiar with nextdoor.com, if you live in a neighborhood, local community, nextdoor.com, I mean, I've had good luck with it. There was one instance where I needed a ladder to get on the roof of my house, but I didn't want to spend, $200 on a ladder at Home Depot, and I didn't want to go through having to rent one. So I just put out like a 2-sentence ad that said, hey, if anybody around here has a ladder that I can borrow, I'll throw you $10, and somebody dropped one off on my front porch the next morning. It was just as easy as that. So anyway, yeah, like if you need something, nextdoor.com, man, you'd be surprised how generous your neighbors can really be.
Going hungry and what families in need might do without help.
A lot of people may go and start breaking in stores, stealing food. It's hard.
Unless it's all behind plexiglass.
And I'm not saying that I'm going to do that, but other families, you don't know what it's like.
Community groups are trying to fill the gaps left by a void in stalled government programs. In Atlanta, Women's International Grail plans to serve 500
Notice that they don't mention who
meals.
stalled it.
Families in Atlanta that they can come, and we're going to make sure they have not only food, but job opportunities, mental health assistance, winter essentials, and just much more. Like, this is important.
Yeah, winter's coming too.
Founder Demetria Henderson says they've had other donors and nonprofits pull out because the shutdown is affecting their funding too.
Yeah, give mommy a hug. Let's hug.
For families like Tabitha's, they're holding on to what matters most, each other.
Yeah, I mean, friends, family, food pantries, food banks, churches, like just your local community, any way you can reach out. I mean, if this is actually going to directly affect you, look, they're saying that up to 42 million people, well, that's how many people are on SNAP benefits. They, of course, the media, even whether if it's on the right or on the left, they make it sound like that 42 million people are going to instantly lose access to food overnight, which is not the case. It actually varies from state to state. The state level government, they're the ones that disperse the funds for SNAP benefits. So there's some states that will run out of funding more quickly than other states. Plus, there's states that have a lot more funding. West Virginia probably has a lot less money than the state of Florida, and Florida has, a budget surplus on an annual basis. So it'd be a lot easier for Florida to move some money around in order to keep their SNAP benefits covered, as opposed to states like Oklahoma or Mississippi, West Virginia. So, I mean, that's something that we would have to pay attention to depending on what state you're living in. I mean, I'm sure you could probably find that out on the local level. All right. So, but every day gets better for Democrats. Chuck Schumer, this is from The Hill. Democrats blocked bill to pay military essential workers during the shutdown. And this was from yesterday by Alexander Bolton. Senate Democrats blocked a Republican-sponsored bill Thursday to pay active duty members of the military and other essential federal employees who have been required to work during the government shutdown. Another one, Texas Food Bank has seen a 60% spike in the need for food since the Democrat shutdown began. Quote, most here, soldiers and their families, are uncertain about the future, unquote. But every day gets better for Democrats, says Chuck Schumer.
You're looking at the human toll here of this government shutdown, and a striking sight. Military members and their families lining up.
I told you, man, that's where that 130 million can go
Texas, uncertain when they'll get their next paycheck and when they'll be able to buy simple things like groceries.
This morning, the government shutdown now in its 23rd day, bringing fear and pain to millions of Americans. Food banks across the country seeing a surge. At this Armed Services YMCA near Fort Hood, organizers telling us they're seeing a 60% spike in the need for food since the shutdown began.
From our military service
and
members.
Their families.
If that doesn't infuriate you, I don't know what would.
It's just a lot of stress and anxiety on the family.
What would be your message to lawmakers back in Washington?
Finish it and get together.
Quit
make a
fucking
plan,
around.
Because
get this over with.
Yeah, our families are struggling.
The Pentagon diverted money in its
Hilarious,
budget to
said
prevent
vote Republican
military
next time.
families from missing their paychecks earlier this month. But as their next payday approaches, it's unclear if they will get paid this time.
Unbelievable. All right, next one. Arrivals to Houston airports were under a ground stop due to the government shutdown, but every day gets better for Democrats. Chuck Schumer.
Long story short, they plan to have delays while this government shutdown continues to go on. Take a look at this picture taken by our meteorologist, Pat Kavlin, more than an hour ago. You'll see where the TSA line almost fully looped the departures area in Bush Terminal A. Then we have this video here where we came to check things out. Since 2 days ago, arrivals to Houston airports were under a ground stop due to the government shutdown and short staffing. There was a ground stop at Bush Airport and Houston Hobby Airport Tuesday.
Yeah, I will say sometimes you kind of have to be careful with how they're reporting this because I believe it was Homeland Security or it might have been TSA's account a few weeks back, the first week after the shutdown began. Some local news agency reported they shared an image of a really long line, and whichever entity it was, it might have been actually TSA, but they corrected the record saying that none of our employees were furloughed. None of them staged a walkout because that's what they were saying. They were saying that TSA agents essentially quit on the spot because they weren't getting paid. They said that's not true at all. We're actually familiar with the image you're showing us. That happened 2 years ago or whatever. Like they knew exactly, the context of the image that they were sharing and it wasn't legit at all. It actually might have been community noted too on X. I don't know. All right. So moving on to RNC research, same RNC research, obviously. So Virginia air traffic controller, quote, not knowing exactly how I'm going to have childcare for my kids or put gas in the car or pay the next mortgage payment adds a certain level of stress onto an already stressful profession. But every day gets better for Democrats, Chuck Schumer. And so, yeah, hold on, let me see what this is. It looks like a post, but I mean, is it just the same thing? Oh, okay, so it links to a video. Here, let's see what he has to say.
Air traffic control is inherently a stressful job. It's one in which it requires intense focus every day. We have to be 100% right 100% of the time. Not knowing exactly how I'm going to have childcare for my kids or put gas in the car or pay the next mortgage payment adds a certain level of stress onto an already stressful profession. It's just very difficult. The longer that this goes on, the more any savings that I may have start to dwindle, and it's just really important that we all get paid as soon as possible for the work that we're doing.
Well, and I know President Trump and the Republicans, they like to keep saying that our economy is rocking and rolling. We're full steam ahead. Everything is just like record breaking, which that is true. If you look at the stock market's breaking records. However, in the middle class, we're not rocking and rolling like they make it sound like. With credit card debt, it's by far, surpassing its previous record high. Last I checked, it was somewhere around $1.4 trillion in credit card debt. Also, the average new car payment is $750. The average used car payment's $550 a month. That's for the average used car. And, like the average mortgage, like what is that now? Like $2,600, $2,700 a month. And that's not even getting into how much that car insurance and health insurance and homeowners insurance, like all of that has gone up substantially. Childcare has gone up substantially. Food has gone up 30%. It just goes on and on. So, yeah, I mean, needless to say, someone like him, he's going to be struggling. I mean, a lot of people are struggling in the middle class. Probably most people are struggling in the middle class. All right. Next one, Nicholas Jenkins from the Chesterfield Food Bank. Quote, if they're unfortunately unable to access the benefits that were helping them sustain themselves, then we will see that in our lines. But every day gets better for Democrats. Chuck Schumer.
If they're unfortunately unable to access the benefits that were helping them sustain themselves, then we will see that in our lines, and not just from the holidays.
Nicholas Jenkins, one of the directors at the Chesterfield Food Bank Outreach Center, tells me they are prepared to provide food for anyone that needs it.
So when COVID hit, we grew 400%, and we had to, on a dime, be able to pivot our distributions, our process, and we were able to continue to meet that need throughout that season.
Look, what we all need to do, if you're doing okay financially, if you're not receiving food stamps, and you've got a little bit of extra food in the pantry, we all need to go through our food pantry. Don't be a dick and go look for expired food. Like, actually get food that you can part without, and gather up some food and give it to your local food bank. I know that at least here locally, and I think it's around Thanksgiving, my local post office, they drop plastic bags in everybody's mailbox, and you can fill up that plastic bag, and they'll pick it up, and then they'll give it to a local food bank. They only do it once a year, the postal service does. But that's what everybody should be doing in the face of this shutdown, especially with Thanksgiving around the corner, Christmas is around the corner, with the furloughed employees, plus people who are looking to be losing their SNAP benefits, because, yeah, a lot of people don't really need them, but a lot of people really do. And it's just going to be an already stressful enough situation with Christmas around the corner, especially if they have kids. So if you got any time this weekend, go through your pantry, fill up a couple of bags, and just, if you don't know where it's at, get on Google Maps or whatever maps you have and take the 10, 15-minute drive to whatever local food bank or church or any program where they'll take it. Just drop it off, turn around, and walk away. I mean, like, they don't have to make, it's not a big thing. It's not an all-day thing. You just go there, you drop it off, you leave. So, I mean, that's what I would recommend. That's definitely what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm actually going to make a note of that. I'm going to set an alarm on my phone. All right, so Sarah Steele, director of No Kids Hungry Virginia. The shutdown will impact new mothers, babies, young children who use that money to buy things like formula and fresh produce. This could be serious the longer the shutdown goes on, but every day gets better for Democrats. All right, this looks like the last one.
So in that category, we're talking about...
Uh-oh, what did I do?
So in that category, we're talking about new mothers, babies, young children who use that money to buy things like formula and fresh produce to really inform kids' development in those first days and months of their lives. So this could be serious the longer the shutdown goes on. So
yeah, I'm actually not sure if diapers are actually covered by WIC. I don't think they are. I think WIC is strictly food, isn't it? Okay, so that was quite a few instances. I was glad RNC Research posted that, because you got to see from different walks of life who's getting affected by the shutdown. And this comes from Morgan Griffith. To make people go hungry and suffer as leverage in a shutdown fight is plain wrong. House Republicans did our job. Democrats can come to their senses and end the shutdown madness to ensure America's most vulnerable communities access SNAP benefits. And again, all they need is 5 Democrat senators to vote yes on the clean CR bill, and it'll be passed immediately. Everything reopens. Republicans have already said that we can have everything funded within an hour. And Speaker Johnson had already said, and I'm sure who is it? John Thune. I think it's Thune. He's the majority senator. He said the same thing. He's like, even if it's in the middle of the night, if it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and you're ready to reopen it, let us know. We'll get it funded within an hour. So are they going to do it? Probably not. But it's as simple as that. We just need 5 Democrat senators to vote yes and just stop stonewalling. Although, like I said, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. They're going to keep it shut down for months because they've pretty much run out of cards to play, I think, at this point. Plus,
well,
F Trump.
There are 2 ways. One, the Democrats can come to their senses and stop holding the American people hostage. And I was telling you in the back room, I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry at this point because next Saturday, SNAP benefits go away. And it's easy for Catherine Clark to say, well, there'll be a little suffering, because her district is 29th in household income in her district. Mine is 409th out of 435. So it's easy for her to say there'll be a little suffering. My district's going to face a lot of suffering. And I equate it to
man. All
Middle
states are
Ages
different.
siege mentality.
All districts are
You didn't
different.
always knock the fort down. You starved the people. And it's just not right to hold up, to try to get benefits for people who have more money. They're not rich, but they have more money, to make the people in my district go hungry. It's just not right.
Well, yeah, that, and also giving benefits to non-citizens is also not right. Speaking of which, Punchbowl News, isn't that, I thought they were left-wing. I don't know. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I thought they were. Anyway, Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee, America is seeing its biggest surge in electricity demand in decades. So we're moving on from the shutdown. We're going to move on to other subjects that were happening in the government today. So America is seeing its biggest surge in electricity demand in decades, fueled by data center expansion and a manufacturing revival brought home under the president. I applaud Secretary Wright's direction to FERC, which is reliable, safe, secure, economically efficient energy for consumers at a reasonable cost. Please see our comment policy at ... To reform how large sources of electric load and generators connect to the grid. And we must ensure customers and small businesses do not bear more than their fair share of costs. I'm confident FERC and its new chairman, Laura Sweat, FERC, are up to the task. Yeah, and I think that's Americans who are paying attention to this AI infrastructure that's getting built, the trillions of dollars that private companies have pledged to build out our AI infrastructure. I mean, I'm worried about it, and I'm sure everybody else is who's paying attention, that our electric bills are going to go up. However, supposedly the Department of Energy, they are building out an electrical infrastructure to meet that demand. And the thing that I've noticed the most, that I'm most excited about, is what they call small modular nuclear reactors. They're building nuclear reactors that are small in size, and they're going to be assembly line building them. They're going to be building, I think initially, they're looking to build 50 or 100 of them in a year's time, and each one of them can power anywhere between 20 and 50,000 homes worth of electricity. Although the initial rollout, they're not going to go to power residential homes. They're going to go to power those facilities, like AI facilities and private companies. And I want to say Microsoft and Google, I think it was Microsoft and Google, I think they were among the first companies to pick up the small modular nuclear reactor contracts, which are being assembled in Tennessee. So that's definitely good news, but we'll just have to see. They already broke ground on that facility. They're supposed to be cranking them out by 2027. All right, Secretary Wright acts to unleash American industry and innovation with newly proposed rules. From Washington, U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright directed the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission today to initiate rulemaking procedures with a proposed rule to rapidly accelerate the interconnection of large loads, including data centers, positioning the United States to lead in AI innovation and in the revitalization of domestic manufacturing. Secretary Wright's proposed rule allows customers to file joint co-located load and generation interconnection requests, which, by the way, with Democrats in this climate change shit, with all these solar panels and wind turbines, and they're trying to get America to net zero, they had no intention on bringing back manufacturing. I hope you're aware of that they were trying to purge manufacturing completely out of the United States. And that just proves it, in my opinion, with them trying to put the entire country on essentially battery power by using wind and solar, because large manufacturing companies, they can't use wind and solar. They need to use like nuclear. They need to use coal and just the fossil sources of energy. Wind and solar ain't going to cut it when you're running like an automotive manufacturing facility. That's clown world, man. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it will also significantly reduce study times and grid upgrade costs while reducing the time needed for additional generation and power to come online. The proposed rule advances President Trump's agenda to ensure all Americans and domestic industries have access to affordable, reliable, and secure electricity. Click here to read Secretary Wright's letter and proposed rule. It'll be linked. Secretary Wright also directed FERC today to initiate rulemaking procedures with a proposed rule to remove unnecessary burdens for preliminary hydroelectric power permits. Secretary Wright's proposed rule clarifies that third parties do not have veto rights over the issuance of preliminary hydroelectric power permits. I'd like to know where they're building hydroelectric because, yeah, that's definitely a power source that I'm all about, 100%. Anyway, click here to read Secretary Wright's letter and proposed rule. I'm assuming it's the same. President Trump and Secretary Wright have been clear the United States is experiencing an unprecedented surge in electricity demand, and the United States' ability to remain at the forefront of technological innovation depends on an affordable, reliable, and secure supply of energy. I just hope they build out the electric infrastructure at the same pace, because we can't have any overlap where these companies are building faster than the electric grid is keeping up, because that's going to send our electric bills going way high. And I'm sure Democrats have been trying to put that on blast, even though I would imagine that they could build out electric probably quicker than like AI data centers. It seems to me like AI data centers would probably take several years to bring online, but what do I know? All right. From the Travel State Department, the country of Mali, the travel advisory for Mali was updated to reflect that the Department of State authorized non-emergency U.S. government personnel and their family members to leave Mali due to safety risks. The travel advisory level remains at level 4. Do not travel. Read the full advisory here. So I don't know what's going on with Mali. Like, what is it? Like is it like war-torn or something? Anyway, maybe just political unrest. All right, it's not... Whatever, dude. Some of these websites are annoying that you can't zoom in. There were no change to the advisory level. The unrest and health risk indicators were added. Advisory summary was updated to reflect changes to U.S. Embassy operations. Do not travel to Mali for any reason due to crime, terrorism, kidnapping, unrest, and health. Well, those are some big reasons. So on October 24th, 2025, today, as of this recording, the Department of State authorized non-emergency personnel and family members of the U.S. government employees to leave Mali. So I already read that. And U.S. government employees working in Mali are not allowed to travel outside of Bamako due to safety risks. U.S. citizens in Mali are advised to take the same precautions. So they're talking about violent crime is common throughout Mali. Kidnapping, assault, armed robbery, home invasion, carjacking. Violent crime is a major concern. During local holidays and seasonal events, which they use roadblocks, include by armed groups, which occurs throughout the country. In cities, police checkpoints are possible, especially at night. Highways across the country often face attacks on government, civilian, and commercial targets. Plus, they go through the details with terrorism, terrorist attacks, which include places where foreigners frequent anywhere in the country, nightclubs, hotels, restaurants, places of worship, and armed conflict is going on, air travel, health, so on and so forth. So, yeah, so the federal government says, don't travel to Mali. So don't book any tickets there anytime soon. If you plan on going, I wouldn't go right now. They're telling you not to, which I'm sure they're letting you know that if you pretty much, throw your middle finger to the government and say, fuck that, I'm going anyway because I don't care. Because, I'm strong, I'm independent, I can do what I want. If you travel there and you get kidnapped, U.S. government probably ain't going to come and save you because you've been warned. All right, so E.J. Antoni, Ph.D., or Antony, E.J. Antony, Ph.D., inflation-adjusted weekly paychecks, i.e. what those earnings can actually buy, fell 4% under Biden, but are up more than 1% in the first 8 months of Trump's second term. So here on the side, real average weekly earnings, the change since inauguration. So the blue is Biden. So it fell all the way down to below negative 5%. And then it slowly started recovering and pretty much ended up at negative 4%, which again, real average weekly earnings percentage. And Trump inauguration heading up and up and up. That's what we like to see. And Dr. Roger Marshall, in 2020, President Trump signed a Phase 1 agreement with China that addressed important trade issues like AG, IP, and financial services. Unfortunately, the Biden administration failed to enforce the deal. Thank you, U.S. Trade Rep, for your action today to stop China from ripping us off. U.S. Trade Rep, U.S. Trade Representative pursuing trade and economic policies that put the American economy, the American worker, and our national security first. And he's responding to U.S. Trade Representative. Today, Ambassador Greer announced a review under Section 301 to assess China's implementation of the Phase 1 agreement. So it's probably a long-winded article. If that's the case, then I'll just link it if you want to read that for yourself. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a long one, as I assumed it would. Yeah, so anyway, that's there if you want to check that out. It's linked below in the description. And I'll move on to the next topic here. Dr. Roger Marshall, Argentina's just a small blip in our beef supply. We've got world-class cattle, but not enough hamburger to meet demand. That's why we import. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me because Trump keeps touting that we're sending beef to Australia. Has anybody else heard that? I've mentioned it on this show a couple of times that Trump was very proud that he struck a deal with Australia, and now Australia is importing U.S. beef into Australia. Well, if we have a short supply of beef, which we clearly do, because how much is steak in your local grocery store? Is it like in my area where it's like $25, $30 for a certain cut of steak? It's absolutely insanely expensive still. Ground beef is still, I don't know, like what, $7, $8 a pound. I shop at Aldi, so I think it's like $4.50, maybe $5 a pound for ground beef. It's still a lot more expensive than it was, especially 5+ years ago. So if we don't have enough, as he's claiming, to the point where we have to import from Argentina, then why the hell are we sending our beef over to Australia? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Anyway, let's hear what they have to say.
We import about 12% of our beef right now to the United States. We also export 12%. What we're importing is hamburger, but we're exporting high-value products.
Look, if it has to do with maybe breeding the cattle, that we want to import cattle from abroad because, genetic issues, or maybe like crossbreeding may help just try to diversify the cattle. Like if they explain it that way, okay, fine. I totally understand that. But other than that, if we're importing 12% and we're exporting 12%, why? That doesn't make any sense. Why not just have Argentina export to whichever country needs the 12% that we export to, or any other country in the world that exports beef?
Look, you'd have to go to McDonald's.
I don't know. What do I know, man? I'm just some idiot on YouTube.
Every day until you had one Argentina hamburger. Argentina is a blip on the market. It's 0.1%. We could increase the imports from Argentina by 10 times, and they would not even begin to replace the cattle that are not coming into this country from Mexico because of the screwworm. Mexico typically has about 1.2 million cattle that come into this country that graze in our lands as well. And Brazil, we've cut down imports from Brazil due to the tariffs. What's causing the high price of beef is the drought. We had the smallest cattle herd that we've had in over 70 years because of the drought we've had the last 10 years. When you have drought, you don't have water for the ponds, you don't have grass for the cattle to graze on. And it's not like chickens where you have a new chicken every 30 days. It'll take about 3 years to grow this cattle herd again.
That's a good point. That would be a problem. All right, moving on. Rapid Response 47. Inflation in September smashes economists' expectations again, with prices holding steady and wages beating inflation. Finally, President Donald J. Trump's golden age is here to stay. I mean, assuming what they're saying is correct. It looks like this is also on CNBC.
Here's our late but coming out September read on the Consumer Price Index. Headline number up 0.3, 1/10 cooler than both rearview mirror and what we were expecting.
Oh, it's beautiful for Wall Street.
The stripping out of food and energy known as core, it comes in also a bit less than expected, up 0.2. We were expecting up 0.3. Our last look was up 0.3. Here's the Moneyball numbers. Year over year, 3%. And even though it's less than the 3.1 we were expecting, it's hotter than 2.9. And after all, it's got a 3 handle. And if we look at CPI year over year ex food and energy, it also comes in at 3%. We're also expecting 3.1, but last look was 3.1, so it cooled a bit. So we're seeing interest rates move down and stocks move up.
Well, you tell that dude loves his job. He never has to work a day in his life. All right. Yeah, good news. It was good news. If what they're saying is accurate. I know sometimes the numbers, like they adjust them a month later or whatever, at least with the jobs numbers. I mean, I'm sure, there might be adjustments here and there, but all around much better news than what we had a year ago. All right, U.S. Embassy, Jerusalem. Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaks to the press at the Civil Military Coordination Center. This is really long. It's 23 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I just figured he would have an opening statement. Maybe if it lasts a couple, 2 or 3 minutes, I'll play his opening statement if he has that. If not, I do have a quick 26-second statement that he makes. So let's see what he has to say.
Ready? Well, this is an impressive center with a lot of important work that's happening here. This is a historic mission, by the way. I mean, if you think about it, there's nothing to model this after because this has never happened before. I think we have a lot to be proud of.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, because there's 35 nations that are involved with. Oh man, I froze that at an awkward time. 35 nations that are involved with trying to rebuild Palestine and trying to get Hamas the hell out of there, lay down their arms, even though that doesn't seem to be working out too well. So yeah, I totally agree with what he's saying, that this is probably something that we haven't seen in, at least not in any of our lifetimes.
10 days, 11 days, 12 days of implementation, where we have faced real challenges along the way, including over the weekend, but also an exciting opportunity. So this will be the journey to sort of get through the 21 points of the plan, to get through all the things that we're trying to achieve is not going to be a linear journey. There's going to be ups and downs and twists and turns. But I think we have a lot of reason for healthy optimism about the progress that's being made. One of the reasons why I wanted to come today is sort of get a sense of the workflow, get a sense of the organization, and get a sense of the needs. It is increasingly, while you see a lot of uniforms here, including from partner nation states that have come, and of course with the Israelis who are hosting us and are a key part of this, you're starting to see more of a presence from State Department and related entities as well, and that will continue to grow as we can provide personnel on things like emergency response, the coordination of humanitarian assistance, and things of that nature. So you're starting to see that presence here grow. But a lot of good progress is being made on a number of fronts, and you can break this out in a number of ways. The first is the maintenance of the current ceasefire, of the current peace that we're confronting. And that involves 2 things. Number one, deconflicting from any flashpoints that may come up. We need to understand, the world needs to understand that on the other side of that yellow line, there is still a terrorist group that remains armed, and we've seen them take actions against their own population. I think it's important, by the way, that there be more media coverage given to the fact that Hamas has brutalized Palestinians, has brutalized Gazans over the last
which they're probably
few days,
still doing.
That's something to point to. But all of that has to be managed to make sure that in addition to that we don't have any flashpoints that could derail the broader process. At the same time, the coordination of humanitarian assistance. And there's humanitarian assistance that is now flowing into those places beyond the yellow line.
Yeah, but when does laying down their arms part start? That was in the agreement, that they have to lay down their arms and they're to be confiscated. So when do we get to that part so they can stop gunning people down if that's what they're still doing?
But that involves coordinating with all of these different organizations from around the world, including international organizations and charity groups. That's a massive undertaking to coordinate all of that and that be distributed safely. That's just beyond the yellow line. Behind the yellow line, there's another effort going on of humanitarian assistance, which is even broader because those areas are safe. Those areas are secure. So that's happening. At the same time, it's this work on creating an international stabilization force. It involves bringing together all the nation states that are offering to provide personnel and resources. So structuring what that stabilization force will look like, lining up all the countries that are willing to provide either money or personnel or a combination of both, and then getting the right international mandate, whether it's the UN or an international agreement, working through that to make sure that that entity, that security force, can exist, can function, is funded, understands what its mission is clearly, and can execute it effectively. And then beyond that, of course, is the long term, the reconstruction, the rebuilding, the creating of conditions so that never again will we see what happened on October 7th, so that you can actually be in a place that no longer has elements operating within it that are a threat to Israel or to their own people, for that matter. And, of course, that's a longer-term plan, and that's something that's also key to all of this. It's the goal we're all trying to get to. But before we can get to that goal, we've got to get through the process that we're involved in right now, which is making sure the ceasefire holds without anything disrupting it, making sure people are getting the life-sustaining aid that they need in a way that's not being looted or stolen or diverted in any way, and at the same time creating the conditions for the stabilization force to come in as soon as it possibly can be put together to provide what we need, the stabilization we need, in order to move to the further phases of this plan. All right?
All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll link this if you want to get the Q&A. Or, well, I'll repost it on my profile. It's the link to my profile is in the description below if you want to check that out. Or you can just go straight to U.S. Embassy JLM. It's over on their profile too. And it looks like this came from the Q&A portion, so I'll play this out. It's a quote, but let's just hear it from him.
UNRWA's not going to play any role in it.
Okay.
UNRWA's not going to play any role in it. The UN is here. The UN is. We're seeing the work they're doing. The World Food Program. There's also not-profit NGOs, humanitarian assistance organizations that are involved in this. Samaritan's Purse. So it's a conglomeration of about 8 to 12 groups that are here. The United Nations is here. They're on the ground. We're willing to work with them if they can make it work, but not UNRWA. UNRWA became a subsidiary of Hamas.
Uh-oh. Oh, wow. Who was it? Or hold on. Oh, UNRWA. Not familiar with UNRWA. Yeah, they became a subsidiary of Hamas. Yep, so obviously they're not going to be involved, at least not under Secretary Rubio's watch. And this is from the Federal Reserve, now available, today's board meeting video, which is on YouTube, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors in Washington, D.C. Same thing, I'll link it. I'm sure for like 95% of us, it's going to be a really boring video, but I will link it if you're interested in checking it out.
Today, and thank you to everyone who worked to bring these proposals together.
I'll play out his opening statement. It's only like a minute, maybe a minute and a half.
Stress testing helps us understand how to maintain that strength by making sure that large supervised institutions have sufficient capital to absorb losses and continue lending to households and businesses, even during a recession. Born out of reforms following the global financial crisis,
does that mean we're in a recession?
Stress testing has been an important element.
A lot of people would say yes.
Regulatory framework and supervisory program.
Yeah, they're doing some stress test something on the economy.
Last December, we committed to improving the transparency of the stress tests and reducing the volatility of resulting capital buffer requirements. Today's meeting is a step in following through on that commitment. The proposals would have us seek comment on the stress test models, on change to the framework that governs the design of the hypothetical scenarios, and on the scenario for next year's stress test. I look forward to the presentations, and I will now turn things over to Vice Chair for Supervision, Bowman.
Thank you, Chair Powell.
All right. So, I think she goes on a lot longer than him. I mean, that's a pretty nice looking boardroom. I mean, how much were they spending on rebuilding, or are they rebuilding or are they remodeling? I think they're remodeling the Federal Reserve, and it was like, what, $3 billion or $6 billion that they're spending on the remodel, which is complete bullshit. Putting up all these fancy, probably paintings and sconces and chandeliers and all that shit, dude. Like, the Federal Reserve should be the most sterile-looking, boring-ass, soul-sucking building that you could ever fucking walk into. It shouldn't cost any more than a couple of $1 million to do whatever additions that they're making. And I'm sure Trump would probably agree with that, too. All right, U.S. Central Command. The U.S. Jordan complete initial planning for exercise Eager Lion 2026. And this is in Amman, Jordan. On October 24th, the Jordanian Armed Forces and U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, completed an initial planning conference for exercise Eager Lion 2026 in Amman, demonstrating the continued strong defense relationship between Jordan and the United States. Scheduled to occur in May, Eager Lion is a multilateral exercise hosted by the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, designed to exchange military expertise, enhance interoperability among partner nations, and strengthen collective readiness to meet regional and global security challenges. Quote, Eager Lion represents the strength of our partnership and our shared commitment to peace and stability in the region, end quote, said U.S. Army Colonel Lee Beard, a senior exercise planner from U.S. Central Command. Quote, this exercise grows in scope and complexity every iteration, reflecting the trust, professionalism, and mutual respect that define our relationship with the Jordanian armed forces and all participating nations. During the previous iteration of the exercise, forces from U.S. Central Command and Jordan joined in more than 30 partner nations, underscoring the scope and significance of multinational security collaboration in the Middle East. Jordan remains one of the U.S. Central Command's strongest and most reliable partners in the Levant sub-region, said Beard. As a capstone for the broader U.S.-Jordan military relationship, Eager Lion reflects more than 4 decades of close cooperation and mutual commitment to regional stability. And I think that's all we got from that. Just a couple of images of them meeting and having this, this conference or what have you. Eager Lion. It's happening in May 2026. And moving on to Senator John Barrasso. Wyoming provides nearly half of all the coal produced in America. I didn't know that. I figured that would have been the claim from like Pennsylvania or maybe West Virginia or something like that. I wouldn't have guessed that half came from Wyoming. So that's interesting. You learn something new every day. Senate GOP is celebrating this vital industry, designating this week National Coal Week. Thank you, Senator Loomis, for leading this important effort, and thank you, Wyoming coal miners, for keeping the lights on. And yes, so she's the other senator from Wyoming. Coal Week. And U.S. Ambassador to NATO, this week's U.S. NATO huddle. And I think this is the last thing I got, so let's check this out from NATO.
Getting American weapons to the Ukrainian warfighter.
America. Ukraine.
I'm Matt Whitaker, the U.S. Ambassador to NATO. Created by President Trump, the Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List, or PEARL, enables allies to buy American weapons, which are already benefiting the Ukrainian warfighter. PEARL strengthens Ukraine's defense while advancing peace efforts by putting the pressure on Russia to come to the negotiating table. In just a little over 3 months since its launch, allies pledged to buy over $2 billion in American weapons to address Ukraine's urgent battlefield needs. Here is how we're making President Trump's vision a reality. Through PEARL, allies are taking over financial responsibility for Europe's long-term security assistance to Ukraine. PEARL channels billions in allied funds to the United States, where it strengthens our defense industry, expanding production and creating American jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for us.
Finally, we ensure peace through strength. PEARL allows Ukraine to benefit from America's second-to-none innovation and technology, giving them an edge on the battlefield. Under PEARL, this needed assistance continues to flow smoothly, and more allies are stepping up. We encourage all allies to pledge their support to this important initiative, because the best offense is a great defense. I'm Matt Whitaker, and that is this week's U.S. NATO Huddle.
Yeah, well, there's only one little issue that I have with regard to all this, that NATO is largely funded by Europe. So Europe is supplying Ukraine with all the weapons that Ukraine is getting, but Europe also receives a large portion of their energy from Russia. So they're paying Russia billions of dollars a year to get energy from Russia, which Russia is using that money to fight their war machine. So Europe is essentially funding both sides, which doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. So anyway, that's all I got, man. That was a pretty good show. I had fun with that show, even though it was a pretty average show, but it's Friday. It's going to be 87 degrees here tomorrow, 35% humidity. That is spectacular, man. We never have humidity that low, so that's going to be great. The glass is half full despite the shutdown and all the BS going on, and just taking things day by day in the most positive way we can, I guess. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean the world to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend. God bless America.